welcome back to Swans Cast, everyone. So first of all, before we get into this video, it is going to be a season review, a little bit special. We've got quite a few guests in this one. So we'll have me, Lee and Alid, part of the Swans Cast team, talking about our review. And then the guests will come on and kind of talk about their thoughts and feelings with just myself afterwards. So it's quite a long video, I'll be honest with you, but I will timestamp it. So you can either watch each section, whichever ones you want to watch, or you can jump back in and forward to the video, come back, watch a little bit more, or just skip to the people that you want to watch, for example. Before we get into that, though, I would just like to thank everyone for your support so far. Obviously, we only started halfway through this season in January. It's been a really good start for us, and we want to continue to grow as a channel. Just want to thank everyone for the support so far. We're on 337 subscribers on YouTube, which is crazy, and we have got 600 followers on Twitter, and that keeps growing as well. So thank you very much, everyone. All I could ask is, if anyone is watching this video, because still quite a few people that are watching that are not subscribed, please can you just click that subscribe button. We want to get to 1,000. That's our target, really, because it just opens up more possibilities for the channel and allows us to do more stuff going forward. Okay, so that's what we're aiming for, so I really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for the support so far. That's one thing, if you can do that for me, I would really appreciate it. And also, don't forget as well, click the like button. That just helps more people see our video. It tells YouTube that people like watching it, and it pushes it out to more people. And engage in the comments as well. We'd love to hear what you have to say. So tell us your season reviews, how you thought the season went compared to your pre-season expectations, and let us know your thoughts and feelings as well. So let's get straight into the video then. So obviously, I say video, if you are listening on Spotify as well, thanks very much. I can't timestamp it so much on Spotify, but obviously I'm sure you can stop and go on there as you please. So the guests we got are, obviously, first of all, will be with the Swans Cast boys, but then we've got Amy Clement returning, so she's been here quite regular, so welcome her back. Check out what she has to say. We've got Alex from the Send Him Off podcast. Ollie is come back. He does a blog called Vibe Football, so check him out as well. Darren from TheReal JackArmy has sent me in a clip telling me about his season review, and we got a debut from a Swansea fan called Joey, who you might know from Twitter. So I'll leave all the links to their relevant social medias or blogs or channels or whatever they do in the description, so go support them after the video as well. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. Once again, thank you very much, and I shall see you later. Alright guys, so welcome back to the channel, Alid and Lee, as always. Alid, been a while since you were on your last.
Indeed.
Been away. What have you been doing?
On sabbatical.
Been busy with university.
Well, all finished now, isn't it? So no excuses for the summer. You need to be on your.
You
need to be watching every single game in the Euros, so you can tell us exactly what's going on.
Right, I already missed the first game.
You haven't started yet, you nutter.
Oh no, I'm in the friendly.
Well, that's not a good start, is it? Anyway, don't worry about what he says, guys. It's fine. Anyway, so as I've just explained, we're going to start off and we're going to talk about our kind of pre-season expectations and then compare it to like what really happened in the end. And we are not going to talk about our players of the season or anything like that, though, because we've got a separate video coming, kind of like a Swans Cast player awards for 2020-2021 season. So that'll be coming hopefully in the next week or so. But let's get straight into it. So I'll start with you then, Lee. Before the season kicked off, before we kicked the ball, a bit of a weird pre-season, of course. There wasn't much gap between the end of last season going into this season. We had a good finish last year, so what was you thinking going into this one?
I think really it seems like it was ages ago, but obviously it was a shorter season in terms of the timing, wasn't it? But I think coming off the back of last season, I would have taken playoffs all day. Like, I would have been happy with playoffs, but I think expectation was just to, sort of have a respectable position, even if it was just outside the playoffs. I think in terms of our, our resources, as Cooper likes to say, is the resources. I didn't think we would compete as much as we did, especially early on in the season.
Yeah.
When you looked at like Watford and Bournemouth and Brentford recruited well again, and I just thought, in and around the playoffs would have been what I would have expected again, but we got more than that, in all fairness.
While you mentioned resources, just thought it was a good time to highlight this, but we have mentioned resources a couple of times on our podcast, our channel, and some opposition fans that have picked up and listened to some of the stuff we've said, or when we've been on other channels talking about Swansea stuff, like on other teams' channels. We always get picked up on the fact that we talk about our resources as a bit of a... People laugh at us a little bit because there seems to be this sort of view that from these other clubs, I think Barnsley and Brentford fans, the two that I can recall recently that commented on it, saying, we're paying you 80k a week, how are you even moaning about resources and all this, that, the other? And look, I understand what you're saying, in terms of how much we're spending on our wage budget. Maybe it is top end of the Championship, maybe, but that's because we've come down from being in the Prem for 8 years, so it's all kind of relative in the fact that you've got to adapt. You can't just overnight click your fingers and all of a sudden everything's less, everyone's getting paid less. The amount of players we've already had turnover since we've got relegated, I would go out on a whim and say it's higher than any other club since we've come down in terms of outgoings to incomings and the amount of changeover there's been. And we've definitely had a massive dent in our expenditure. It still might be on the high end of wage budget, but that's the point, isn't it? We signed a lot of these players when they were in the Premier League, so they're going to be on higher wages. You can't just get rid of them.
I don't think, like you said, apart from IU though, I don't think we would have. Someone will probably show us the stats, but I don't think we were on the higher end of the wage budget. It was only IU as an anomaly because most of our players are young or homegrown or on loan this season, and as a result of paying, like you said, IU's wages of 80k a week, we lost, Rodon, McBurney.
Yeah, and you couldn't sign anyone.
The list goes on.
And then
and didn't bring anybody to replace.
Yeah, and then you look at Brentford, for example, who is, those fans laughing at us from that respect. Not all of them, of course, most of them do understand. But, you sell in your Ollie Watkins, your Ben Rama or whatever for a lot of money, which we equivalent did a couple of years ago with Dan James and McBurney, I would say. However, then you go and buy Ivan Toney for 10 million. So you might not be paying him 80k a week, but you've spent all that money bringing the player in. So when you're saying, we don't have these resources, blah, 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 I'm not saying you don't deserve to be doing that, because you do, because you've been run well and you've earned your right to bring those players in that way and spend that money in that way. But it's not like you're not spending the money either. Barnsley, on the other hand, fair enough, they've just come up from League One. So they're going to be in a different situation because they're going to have players kind of on salaries reflective of that league. They probably all had a little bit of a pay rise when they came up. But in terms of an average squad that's come down from the Prem to one that's come up from League One, even after 1 or 2 years in the league, there's still going to be a big difference there. And that's just natural. And it's not like we were in the Prem for 1 year, offered everyone a mad contract and came down. We were there for 7-8 years. So it just comes to kind of default that you're paying your players a bit more at that point, and you just have to. Your club just needs to go through a transition to get back to the level of operating in the Championship, which is the literal reason why parachute payments exist, because there's such a massive difference that a club that drops from that level to this level without that support, as much as you may agree or disagree with the parachute payments, maybe it's not the best way to do it, but it's the system that's there. Something like that is necessary to stop the clubs basically falling apart, because it just, with financial fair play, they'd instantly be on the wrong end of it. But that's just went off on a tangent a little bit. But
like you said though, I'd be very surprised if we were in the top 6 of budget of salary payers in the league. I'm very surprised.
After you take out, I think we might be up there with him.
Well, yeah, with him probably.
Yeah, with him,
around the top 6, but you're talking, like you said, 80k a week.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if we were any higher than that.
I mean, you spoke about turnover. Obviously, we've brought in youngsters who aren't going to be on the same amount as those more experienced players, and but there will be a few players who have that extra amount because they played for us when we were in the Prem, and although they'll take a percentage cut, probably it's not going to be 80k down to 40k.
That was apparently part of the problem when we got relegated, though, that some of the newer contracts and their desperation to stay in the league, they actually didn't input relegation wage clauses in, to drop the wage. So that was kind of part of a problem. Bad management of the club, it is, but then we had to fix that, and that's when any Swans fan talks about their financial situation and it being bad, compare what you like in terms of like the fact that we were there, we had all our money while we were there, but when we come back down, we don't have it, and we've now got to get from up here to the sort of resources you operate at. So even though we might be spending more, we need to get to your level, and that's where the problems are, because you're just shipping money away until you get to that level. So you end up in the red, look at Stoke, until you get to that level. So that, and Cardiff, they lost money this year as well, recent relegated clubs. So that's what it is. It's just people, I think, that haven't been in the Prem, didn't have the parachute money, like to like be like, oh, look at them talking about difficulties when they've got this free money. It's like, that's literally the reason it's there.
Yeah, but also, like, say paying IU 80k a week, you know, because we're paying him 80k a week, and everyone says like, oh, you're paying this money, you've got this money to outlay. No, that's taken so much of our budget away.
Yeah.
That I would argue that the rest of the squad is not anywhere near that level.
You could probably get like 3 players for that wage. Which over a course of a season, you could argue, I'm not saying IU's not quality and did a good job for us, but in a different team, you could probably pick 3 players in the Championship, if you went across all the clubs, that you could pay out of his wages and sign, that could probably bring as much in terms of if you're adding the 3 to the squad. Like, for example, how much was that DK from Barnsley on loan? Do you know what I mean? No one knew who he was, and then he had the stormer of a season, so you bring him for cheap, didn't you? So that's an example.
Yeah, but this is it. Like, you would sack... Like, obviously, like, I'd love to keep Ayew. I know he's gone now. I'd love to keep him in. He's been class for the club, but in a positive way, to spin it, using that off the wage books, we're able to invest in, like you said, like 2 or 3 players. Because probably the main reason why we didn't go up was our strength and depth.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you add maybe 3 players in instead of Ayew that boost the squad, then it might be different.
Anyway, we've gone off on a tangent with this. We'll get back on track. But one last thing, I don't know how much. His wages were pretty much covered by third-year parachute, so we'll have to wait and see whether we do get that money reinvested. But hopefully we will. Hopefully we will. Okay, Alid, what was your pre-season expectations then?
Yeah, I mean, going off of last season, I was expecting around the playoff area. Especially compared to the teams that Lee mentioned. You know, I think it just made sense for us to be in and around that area with the squad we had as well, with the continuation of some of the loans like Gooey, yeah.
And Woodman.
So, and of course Woodman. So with the continuation of those loans, I felt quite comfortable thinking that we'd be in the playoff area again, and I mean, getting to playoff final, definitely a progression on last year.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same sort of. Because we kind of got in last day last year, and I've said this a couple of times with everyone I spoke to now, but I'll explain in detail. Like, we kind of robbed that position. So I think for me, it was an improvement if we just earned that position. Like, we were there, we were like, not just the last day of the season where we got in, but thereabouts all year, and we're in there quite comfortably, even if it was 6th in the end, just to get to that playoffs, like, comfortably be the team all year that's like there, if that makes sense. I saw that as a bit of progression, because as much as we finished in the playoffs last season, it was so abrupt at the end that I kind of don't think that's where our season was as a whole. We got a bit lucky to get there in the end, and the points total to get 6th last year was quite low. So yeah, for me, to get there comfortable, that's what I was aiming for as progression. And then I guess the other thing is, because we lost in the semi-final, learn from the mistakes to get through that game. And, you know, we know what happened there as well. But we'll talk about how the season added up in a second. So, okay, so let's have a look at the beginning of the season. So we're going to sort of, not really like very, very in-depth, but we're going to do a bit of a season review. So summing up the season then, we're going to look at like stand-up moments, we're going to look at areas that maybe cost us and compare it then to where we saw our expectations. So let's go right to the beginning. We'll kind of split it into 2 halves, I think. It works quite well with what happened as well. So first half of the season, I would say we kind of set out and carried on where we left off, I guess, from last year. Bar the cup game against Newport, which after that I was a bit worried, I'll be honest. Losing 2-0 in the cup to Newport. As much as it was nice to see Newport doing well, bit of a concern for us because he did have a bit of a mixed squad. Some players played there that we didn't really see too much of for the rest of the year. I think Rashisha had a run out at some point.
It was like our first competitive game for us, though, wasn't it? I think League One and League Two had started like 2-3 weeks before that, so they were up and running.
We only had one friendly against Forest Green as well.
It was a weird one because we had we had Jake Bidwell, obviously left wing back, Kyle Norton left centre back, Joe Rodon, Corey Smith right centre back, and Wayne Routledge right wing back. So it was a bit of an odd team. And yeah, I thought Rashisha came on, but I'm looking at it now and he didn't. But Osoro came on, so I guess that shows, doesn't it, what sort of stage of the season we were at there. Osoro comes on, Pettersson comes on. I don't know what, I actually forgot Pettersson was sold this season, and Jan Dander as well. But yeah, I guess that it was a bit of a ropey start after that. When Pettersson got sold and Steve Cooper had a bit of handbags, didn't he, with the board over that at that time. But we go into the actual league and we get a win against Preston. And go on a bit of a good run to start the season. 4 games in a row without losing. And then we lost against Huddersfield at home. But yeah, what do you think about the start of the season then, Lee?
Yeah, well, try and jog the memory. I think we started quite well, didn't we? I think most of the beginning of the season we looked good. Gibbs White slotted in quite nicely, didn't he? He was looking good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good start. It was similar to last season. We started quite well, didn't we?
Yeah, it was 3 wins out of 4 and a draw, and then the loss.
Yeah, well, you can't complain with a start like that in the Championship. You're off to a flyer then, anyway. You're immediately on the front foot, and you're not chasing points already. You feel like you lost the first 4. So yeah, good start.
Yeah, well, correct me if I'm wrong. We obviously got a good start. I believe 4 points in the first 2 games. Maybe after the 3rd game where we won that as well, 7 points. I don't think we fell out of the playoffs since.
Yeah, I know. That's class. You can't argue with that. Fairness to maintain that sort of level all season, to stay in the top 6, 7 area.
Yeah, it's good. Aled, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I remember seeing that 2-0 against Newport, and I was just like, oh, for God's sake. And then we got some decent results. And that sort of boosted confidence again. I gotta say, though, in a way, I feel as nice as the cup run is, I sort of feel like maybe that helped us a little bit without having those extra games and a more compact, with the compact season, having those extra games, I think might have just pushed the edge again. So having possibly being knocked out early on could have been a bit of a godsend.
Maybe it was a compact season, wasn't it? So I didn't even think of that. But yeah,
he was trying to. You could see like you said, what stage of the season we were at with the players that he played in there. I'm trying to think when did we sell Rodon?
He did play in the Championship, so
yeah, I know he had a couple of games in the Championship. I remember he did play well at the start.
He's still there for the Preston game. Still there, Birmingham.
He was basically on transfer deadline day, wasn't it?
Yeah,
which was a bit later on into October this year, or September even.
Well, what was our starting team?
Right,
for...
he's gone by the 5th game, Huddersfield, which we lost 2-1 from what I can see.
Yeah, so he played on the 3rd of October against Millwall, and then he's not in the team for Huddersfield.
Yeah,
which was on the 17th.
Which is when we lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember that game, and we shouldn't have lost that game. There was a goal from a corner, which was like caught us out a little bit. It was kind of played short to the edge of the box, and I think they shot and it got deflected in or something. And I'm pretty sure the other goal was a deflection as well from outside the box. So we should not have lost that game, but we did. They did a double over us. We'll talk about the other Huddersfield game a bit later on, I think. But some other key moments then after this, because we had that 1 loss, and then we went on another 5-match unbeaten run with 3 draws and 2 wins. One of the draws there was against Brentford, which is another game I feel we should have won, the away game at Brentford. I think even though we went behind, we were the better team and looked like the team if it was going to be one to win it.
Yeah, it's coming back now. There was a few, considering how well we played in the beginning of the season. There were a few drop points there as well. We should have beaten Norwich away, and definitely should have beaten Brentford away as well.
So Huddersfield away, I would say is drop. Home, sorry, I would say is drop points. Bristol City away, where they had that dodgy penalty because Connor Roberts. Remember, they were both running backwards or something, and he tripped over, and there's a penalty. They were awful, Bristol then. Which in hindsight, you think, oh yeah, they were awful. They had an awful season, but at that point, they were in the playoffs with us, which is important to remember. But yeah, we were on top for much of that game, so that was more drop points for me. And like, you know, you look at these games, and when you think about how we ended the season, we weren't necessarily like scoring lows, we weren't playing all that well. You know, here we had less possession than Bristol, but we had more shots, and shots is what we were struggling with at the end of the season. So it just shows that, you know, it wasn't always necessarily such a problem for us creating chances all year. But then we had Gibbs White back then as well. Although, what game did he get injured in? I think he was gone by Bristol.
He only played like 5 games, didn't he? I think.
Yeah, he was gone by the Bristol game. You are right.
5 games. We only had 5 games out of him. It was ridiculous.
Well, we had that cameo against Watford, didn't we?
Yeah. Just to tease us.
He came on and was just putting all the attackers out, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, come back, mate, come back," and then they never played him hardly.
And is it? How do you say his name? Gyökeres? Gyökeres? I don't.
I forgot about it.
He was the one in those sort of string of games being subbed on for Low.
Yeah, well, because he was brought in as a forward, wasn't he? But like, he just didn't really. He had a couple of promising outings right at the start, but maybe confidence, but he never got into the rhythm, and it just never worked out. Kind of reminds me a little bit like the Vasquez, the Schechter, that, you know, looked maybe like they could do something at the start, but then the more you see them, the less they do, and just didn't work.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so draw Brentford.
Did he get recalled?
Gyökeres did, yeah, and then he went to Coventry. And then lost to Norwich, which, yeah, again, that was quite a tight game, and they scored right at the end, didn't they? 84th.
Yeah, but Lowe missed 2 sitters in that game.
Yeah, that was like.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was where Lowe kind of, people were questioning him a bit after that. But I think it wasn't long after this that his goal scoring run starts, where he scores like 9 games in a row or something like that. 10 games in a row. Obviously, like the Cardiff game being included. Okay, so first half of the season going quite well. So we had 2 losses then, the Norwich one being the second. But up literally 16th of December, which is like coming up to halfway, we lost 2-0 to Derby. I believe that was an awful game. I remember watching that. I think Wayne Rooney's first game or something.
That was a hangover from the Derby, that was.
Yeah, which I was going to come to in a sec. But that was only our 4th loss, I was going to say, which was like just before Christmas, 16th of December. You are right, though. Derby was the match before, and 2-0 win over Cardiff. Red card for Cardiff as well, if you remember. And a brace from Jamal Lowe. And the official goal of the season, voted for on the Swans Awards, they gave it to Jamal Lowe for the goal he scored, where he runs through the pitch and scores. Interestingly, after like the 4 or 5 guys I've had on for the rest of this video that you'll see after this, I don't want to do any spoilers, but Jamal Lowe is heavy on the goal of the year award.
He did score some crackers, in all fairness. I could think of we'll probably do in another video, but I got one that I think is better than the Cardiff goal, which is controversial, but I'll come back to that.
I think it's just because of his run. We don't really see goals like that much as a Swansea fan.
Yeah,
where
true.
They just dribble from like nearly halfway and beat some people and also score.
Yeah, also the opposition, the fact that it was against Cardiff.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have been. It was special, but being against them, like,
would it be as special against someone else?
It's going to be replayed forever, isn't it? That goal now. He's going to be. Oh yeah. You could play. I know there's question marks in the second half of the season over Lowe, but he would still be in the history books and like a legend after that, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like Emnes, he's the same. Like, not necessarily the best player to ever put on a Swan shirt, but he's got a goal against Cardiff, and that's what's important.
Yeah.
Okay, so general reflections then, first half of the season. Another 2 games I want to highlight as positive points for me. even though we didn't necessarily win them both. So it was the home games, double home game week, and I was against Reading and Watford. And I thought those 2 games is probably what I can remember, other than maybe Norwich at home, where we played our best football. I think those 2 games, they were massive games. They were both in the playoffs at the time. Watford, one of the favourites for the league. We didn't beat Reading, but as far as I'm concerned, that's more drop points and then pulling it up on SofaScore.
That game was so frustrating.
Yeah, pulling it up on SofaScore, looking at the momentum graph here, like it's literally 3 bits where it's Reading. The rest of the matches, that's
yeah, I remember that. We absolutely
like, that was where, in no way, there's been arguments over Cooper's style of play and whether he can actually play the Swansea way. I would say this game, we played the Swansea way, and it shows he can do it if he wants to, and the players can play that way under him. You know, it was 57% possession, and we had 11 shots, 6 on target, 2 big chances created, 2 big chances missed, and that was the problem in the end. But I think that and the Watford game after it, they were our probably 2 best performances back to back this season.
Well, one thing we have to consider at this point, though, of the season as well, is that Reading was still in contention for playoffs. They were still high in the table at that point.
Well, I think they were literally
they were just under us. Yeah.
Well, they were top at the beginning of the season. Remember, they went on that crazy run of winning like 9 games in a row.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So
I think
with that game, though, not with that game, with that run, they ended up picking up a lot of injuries. Yeah. I think John Swift was one of them, who I think he's their captain.
He got subbed out in that game. Maybe got injured in that game.
And yeah, he got injured. A lot of their experienced players and their quality players got injured.
Well, that's fine. But we like their keeper as an absolute worldie.
Like he was insane
that game. And I believe, if I remember correctly, they played someone in the next game and he had a howler. And like they conceded the softest goal, and it's just typical because he literally like used all of his lives, if you like, in the game before that. He just let in a howler the next game.
Yeah.
We went behind against Watford, didn't we? A Tom Cleverley strike from outside the box, but then managed to pull back the 2. And this was the infamous game that will again Jamal Lowe making history this season, or being the first player to celebrate in front of the GoPro on the goalkeeping cyclist YouTube channel. That was a good moment from the season as well.
Well, it seems like ages ago now. I remember we were in proper lockdown then. I mean, that was like New Year's Day, I think, or maybe
just
the day
started,
after.
Christmas, and it just gone back in.
And I just remember then that sparked me watching the Ben Foster videos then from the beginning, just in lockdown with nothing to do, and I thought they were pretty good because I wanted to see the low goal and then just watch them all.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
And then,
but that I was going to say that spell like Christmas time, like December minus like the Derby game where we were awful, like Christmas and then sort of January and then into early Feb. That was probably our best spell of the season, I think.
He means the Derby game is in Derby County, not the Cardiff Derby game, because they were right next to each other.
Yeah, but, the Derby County game after the Derby.
But yeah, and January was a very good month for us. We had a cup run that kind of got off to a good start, where we beat Stevenage. Freddie Woodman saved a penalty in that game. The Nottingham Forest game, 5-1. What happened there? Like, where was this for the rest of the season? Forest didn't even play a weaker team. They didn't play that much of a weak team. They got a new manager at this point as well, didn't they? Chris Hughton come in.
We played
Liam Cullen and scoring and Routledge getting injured, both of them in the same match. That was maybe something that,
unfortunate,
that caused downfall down the line. But what was you going to say, Alid?
I said we changed our team quite a bit that game, didn't we?
Yeah,
it seemed like a bit of a rest.
It was more changes than what we would have seen a lot of the time. I think it was Horahan's debut. Ryan Manning made a start. Latabodia made a start. We got Jan Dander, Liam Cullen, and Rowledge. So five changes there. So it was a few changes, but an entirely different front three, and it worked. Rowledge was playing well until he got injured. Set Liam Cullen up nice, and he was smashing them in until he got injured. So Ollie Cooper also got a goal in this game when he came off the bench. So that was a good one, and obviously set us up for a tie against Man City, who a lot of people think was the start, the beginning of the end. So just before that, though, a 3-1 win against Rotherham, another moment I like to highlight because first time in a league match this season we scored more than 2. and the 2-0 win against Norwich City at home, which at the time, with the games in hand, put us in contention to be winning the league. And then we go into February. So we got Man City on the back of that, and didn't quite go so well for us. It's a good moment though when Sterling's floored by Geehee. That was definitely one.
We didn't expect much back then. If you remember doing the video, we felt like if we could just hold on, then maybe we could grind it out. But we didn't expect the win because obviously Man City just are pure class. So
you never expect the win against Man City, and I think at this point as well, they were on a stupid run of consistent wins. So that was always going to be a tough game. But I think it's like that is seen as a pivotal moment of what happened afterwards. So the Sheffield Wednesday game gets postponed, which is the game after, so we can't even have an instant bounce back. And then we scraped a 1-0 win against Forest, considering we beat them a couple of weeks earlier, 5-1. Did we score a late goal in this one? Yeah, Connor Roberts.
This was the start of the poor performances, but nicking wins.
And then the second game against Huddersfield, which we haven't got John with us today, but I don't know, Lee, if you want to remind us what happened there.
I think John said he was very confident of a win. I think he's predicted 3-0 Swans, I think.
Have we actually seen John on the channel since that?
I generally
I don't think we have.
Time.
Oh, well, John's gone into retirement on the back of that outburst. He said he'd never been more confident of a Swansea win or something, didn't he?
Something along those lines.
And we lost 4-1, heaviest defeat of the season. Crazy game, and what made it worse was a new signing, Jordan Morris, who was definitely being brought into the team more and more, comes on our half-time and snaps his leg. So as well as having forwards Routledge and Cullen out, we've also now got Morris out. And out for the season, that was as well. Bad news. And then it continues. So we actually came back after that and got a 1-0 win at home to Coventry, which again, I believe was like hard game. Maybe not as hard as some of the other ones. Probably say just about maybe could have said that was deserved, but it wasn't like what we were looking at earlier in the season. And then comes the Bristol City at home, which...
Oh, my God.
I want to talk about it.
That was horrific. Well, yeah, why are we talking about this again?
Casey Palmer charging down Woodman and then coming out in the news and telling everybody that it's definitely an opportunity. Yeah.
That was horrific.
But do you know, the man, do you remember that game, the first half?
Yeah, we absolutely battered them.
And we just couldn't score. Well, we scored. No, we didn't score. We scored in 55th.
Like, that was actually on my birthday as well, which was even more depressing. But the first half, I know I said the two games against Reading and Watford were the best we played all season, but I think the first half of that was technically the best. I don't know whether it was down to the fact that Bristol looked like they just didn't want to play football. But oh my God, it was so hard to take when we didn't put them to the sword.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the third goal was 97th minute, so
it doesn't matter. Like the 3-1,
it really
if it was 2-1, it would feel
but...
the same because it just. I
100%.
can't believe how much
we got robbed.
We dominated them. We had 21 shots, 8 on target. When have we done that at all this season? And we did not win that game. Crazy.
Yeah, I think we said at the time that it was our best 45 minutes of the season, wasn't it? That first half.
Yeah, and the goal that we scored was a penalty as well.
That was grim.
Anyway, after that, we had maybe a little bit of false hope where we have 4 games undefeated, 3 wins and a draw. However, Stoke City, dodgy penalty, according to... Look, I'm just going to say it because that's what everyone says. Dodgy penalty in Stoke, dodgy penalty against Middlesbrough. Blackburn. Was that another one?
We had a penalty. No, we did have a penalty, but it was a penalty. Yeah. It was definitely a penalty.
I think the Middlesbrough one was a penalty as well, personally, because they come in like... It's 50-50.
I do as well. But I think it was just the... I
can't remember it.
The timing of it again, isn't it?
Bidwell was running in from the edge of the box and he was going to lamp the ball and somebody tried to tackle it. I think just got his foot, but people debate it because everyone says that
It was the timing of it, though, it was, because we had a 95th minute penalty against Stoke, and then it was the same in the Middlesbrough game when it was like really late on, like 90 into injury time.
The Stoke one, I would say, is the most dodgy.
Oh, yeah.
That was Carl Norton.
That was
Yeah,
questionable.
I think enough's been said about those. But then Luton Town, 1-0 win. This one wasn't a penalty, though, was it? This was a Conor Horahan goal. Assist from the Andan.
Was that one of his free no, never mind.
No, I remember Dan makes a good run, doesn't he? And cuts it back.
And then we defended for like the rest of the game.
Classic.
Anyway, after that, that's when it all fell apart. So 3-0 loss to Bournemouth. The second derby, which I still feel like we didn't play that bad in the derby, but we didn't win it. So that's the important thing. We didn't draw it even. We lost it. So, and then another loss to Birmingham, a 1-0. Sure, these were all like either really late goals or we came out in the second half and conceded after half time. So that was a 90-minute. You had the Preston 1-0 loss, which was
Grimes' own goal, 91st minute.
That was the Grimes. Yeah, so another 90-minute loss. So yeah, bit of a bad run there. 4 straight defeats, and before that we hadn't lost 2 in a row, and we lost 4 in a row, and everyone goes into panic mode. But we managed to turn it around a little bit. A 3-0 win at Middlesbrough, and 2-0 win at Sheffield Wednesday, and a draw against Wickham. This seems like only the other day, drawing against Wickham. Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, it's flown, isn't it? Because there were so many games.
Yeah.
So many games in short spaces of time. They all mould into one, don't they?
Yeah.
You look at it, it's only 2 months ago-ish.
I know. On reflection of the season so far, I've labelled a couple of what I think are missed opportunities. I would say another 2 points dropped against Wickham. They did give us a good game, to be fair, and a part of me wishes they won now because it would have kept them in the league.
They would have stayed up when they...
Yeah. Liam Cullen coming back here now and scoring a goal. So
this is where... Is this the first goal that Lowe scored? No, he scored in the Wednesday game.
And I think he scored in the Millwall game as well. So
yeah, he did.
We changed formation at this point.
Oh, yeah. Again,
we changed after the 4 straight defeats, didn't we?
Yeah.
Just
after Birmingham it was.
Yeah, after the Friday night against Birmingham on Easter.
Yeah.
He went to the back 4 on Monday against Preston.
He went 4-3-3.
We still lost the game, but then the games after that, I'd say the Millwall game away was one of our best performances as well. It's got to be up there.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Brilliant at that game. That's when he finally moved Ayew out to the right, though, because in the Preston game he played the back 4.
Yeah.
He played Ayew through the middle. And we were crying for him to move Ayew out to the wing, play someone else through the middle.
This was in them weeks where we would say something on the podcast, and then the week after he's doing it, so we'd definitely watch it.
Yeah.
We had a good run, didn't we? We said change it to the back 4, and he did, and then we said push Ayew to the right.
Yeah, and earlier on when we were like do the diamond, and then he did it, and it worked against Stoke, didn't it?
Maybe one of his tactical advisors is watching us and was listening and then taking credit for it.
Yeah.
No, we've already decided that Steve Cooper watches the podcast. So
yeah, definitely.
Cheers, Steve.
And then kind of like fizzled out a little bit the last run. Kind of a case of just getting the playoffs. In the last 7 matches, we only won 2, drew 2, and we lost 3. So nothing spectacular, but at the same time, I don't think it was nothing awful. Kind of just started struggling to score, didn't we? As much as we were getting a couple of goals, but it was like we had to bury a chance if we made a chance, essentially. So in that run, when I'm saying the last 7, actually, like that's including the playoff games, but we only got 2 wins in that run. So in terms of the actual season, QPR we lost, Reading we drew 2-2, bit of a mad game. Is that when he comes off the bench and does that audacious back heel that sets off Jay Fulton through the park, and then I think Jamal Lowe scored at the end of that move. But that was another moment for the highlight reels this season. Andre Ayew's back heel nutmeg. Definitely another example of why he was so good on the wing. Obviously, we beat Derby, which was vital, especially after drawing with Reading, kind of put a nail in their coffin. and then it didn't really matter against Watford, and going into the playoffs. So we did do obviously a review of the playoffs, but let's just briefly talk about it. I thought we were very solid in the 2 legs over Barnsley. Did the job, but definitely showed that we learnt experience from last year, like how to manage a 2-leg tie, because we did the same thing in terms of winning the first leg 1-0, except it was the opposite way around in terms of we were away first. But the second leg we didn't capitulate really, and we just controlled it and did what we needed to do. And as much as it says 1-1 on the scoreline, I still think we were so comfortable in that game.
Yeah, I think, like we said on the video, I think it was a perfect template of how to play like a 2-legged playoff semi-final. It was so solid, like in those 2 legs, like you said. They had a couple of chances in the first leg, Barnsley did, but especially in the second leg, we were solid all the way through. But then, which is why, again, I know I said before, but it baffles me, all those games you just reeled off from the Friday Easter weekend, where we played the back 4 on the Monday, we played the back 4 all the way through up to the Barnsley second leg, and then he played the back 5 in the final.
Yeah, that didn't make sense to me either.
Yeah. So where I said we learnt our mistakes from our mistakes in the semis, well, going into a different experience, playing at Wembley, a lot of players wouldn't have done it before. Out of the squad, maybe you played there from playing in the Premier League, not in a final, and I think maybe Routledge would have played there in the League Cup. I don't know if he came on in that game actually, but would he have started? I don't think he started the League Cup final, did he? He was in the squad regardless. He was in the squad at the time.
I think he did, didn't he?
I don't know, because it would have been Dyer, I think, and Pablo played in that game.
Dyer,
Pablo.
Yeah, Michu up top, and then Pablo behind with Dyer and Routledge on the wing, wasn't it?
It might have been Routledge. Yeah, it might have been. But yeah, so Routledge was there. Ayu's probably played there.
Yeah, Ayew definitely did. I remember when he played for West Ham and they beat Spurs at Wembley, didn't they, when Spurs were in there.
But I don't know if anyone else, unless anyone's played maybe a playoff game for a different club, or Horahan. Maybe Bennett, if he was playing in the Prem for, well, I don't know, maybe not actually.
It might have been with Norwich when they won the playoff final a few years back. I don't know, yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is not too much experience, and you could definitely see like the occasion maybe got to the players a little bit. But yeah. I don't think Steve Cooper helped it by changing the formation.
No, I think as well though, someone asked me, someone stopped me before the game to do like an interview on something. I can't remember what it was called now, but the first question they asked me was, Swansea were the clear advantage because, you've won so many times at Wembley. And I said, no, because the last time we played at Wembley was ages ago. It's a completely different squad. Brentford have been there 12 months ago, so if anything, they had a better advantage, really, in the same game as well, the same importance. So yeah, like you said, I think the occasion did get to it. Maybe occasion got to, the group as a whole, management included.
Well, I mean, I think Cooper was probably looking at it like, be as tight as you can against a team that scores for fun. The top goal scorer in the league is like, I'm not justifying his decision, but trying to kind of think why he did it. That's what I would say. But like you said, the occasion's definitely got to. Grimes made an uncharacteristic, rash decision right at the start. As much as Jay Felton's red card was complete accident, like maybe it was just a sign of like just the day. Just everything was going in that direction, and ends up doing something like, I guess, the red, like Ayew's chance not going in. It just wasn't our day, really. It wasn't Brentford's day last year, like you just said. So when we refer now back to the pre-season expectations, I said get to the playoffs comfortably, which we did. We were there all year. It was only that we were only panicking about falling out when we had them 4 games in a row where we lost, and we all started just panicking. Looking back, probably a little bit over dramatic because we were quite comfortable in the end. But everyone's like, "Oh, they're going to be the Forest of this year." It's like, well, it didn't happen. But we got there. So next year, now I would say like, it's hard to say my expectation is automatic because it's not. I'd be happy to finish in the playoffs again, but to use this experience to drive us forward to make sure it's like, okay, we got to the first step and we failed, got to the second step and we failed, so let's do it the third time if we get there. That's what I would show that you've learned from that heartache, if you like. But it's easier said than done. And I'm not making a full prediction for next season now. I'm not asking you to do it either. It's hard to do that when you haven't seen what the summer's going to bring. You never know what could happen. Cooper might be gone. Players might be gone. We don't know who we're going to sign. So, yeah. What about you two then? So, Lee, compared to where you thought we were going to do this season, how would you sum it up?
Well, I would have taken playoff final all day if you offered me that at the beginning of the season. And obviously I went to the game as well. So at the beginning of the season, where I thought it would be a full season not going to the game, for them to give us a Wembley final and the home leg as well, you would have taken it all day. And I think, in hindsight, looking at it, like you're saying about next season now, it's all going to depend again on what sort of summer we have, which will decide. So like you said, you can't make an expectation now. Because looking at the 2 seasons, you'd say, yes, we should be going up now. But like you said, we're going to lose players, potentially another manager change. So if I look back to the summer, in hindsight, last year, I think our transfer window was pretty good. We got Woodman back in, we got Gibbs White in. I think they were good sort of, replacements for what we lost. But then the January transfer window, looking at it now at the end of the season, it probably looked better at the time. I thought, the January transfer window looked really good. But I think that's what killed us in the end.
We didn't fix the problems that we needed to fix.
No, but I think we did so well at the start of the season. I think he done everything right. Tactically, Cooper, everything was working. We had that brilliant spell, like sort of end of December, January, and then it sort of peaked then in that Norwich game at the beginning of February where we were realistically in a promotion hunt. But I think it had already started to turn because the January transfer window, we lost Gibbs White. We called Casey Palmer back. Gyökeres. We didn't sign a striker. Obviously, that Obafemi got injured. We brought in Horahan. Yeah, we brought in Horahan. Yeah, Morris. Morris would have been a good signing for us. I think if you look back now to like the playoff final and the run into the season, we could have used someone like Morris. And he was starting to look good.
Yeah, when AU and Lowe kind of went quiet and couldn't score, and we couldn't get him in the game, so that bit of pace for Morris would have been...
The downturn had already started because how many times do we do a video and say the players look absolutely wrecked because he didn't change anything?
Yeah.
Maybe because he didn't like, obviously, what we had on the bench.
We didn't have much options, I guess, looking back.
Well, we didn't have a lot of options. But
we didn't know at the time what was going on with Areola, but... We thought, why is he not using him? But it just wasn't an option by the look of it.
Well, there we are. Areola was another one in January. And then, obviously, we signed Horahan. He came in and gave us that little boost, I think, just to stop the downturn. Because we played well against Norwich, and then we had a good couple of games when he came in. And then he sort of just tailed off and just didn't do anything for the rest of the season. And then I think we ran out of gas, didn't we? But, again, credit to Cooper to keep the team ticking over, getting those 1-0 wins, scraping those wins, staying in there, staying in the playoffs. That's credit to him because we definitely run out of gas. Yeah. I don't think it was a case. Everybody says like, we played rubbish football or Cooper's defensive manager and all this crap. I just think we were playing good football up until Christmas, February time, and then the downturn started and he did what he had to do to get results and get us into the playoffs.
Yeah, everyone remembers like yesterday, really. I think that's why I wanted to do this a little bit and go into a bit of detail about the season in a bit of order, because it wasn't like that at the first half of the season at all. I don't think. I think we were doing some nice, good stuff.
If you look at our team for the first game of the season, we had Roden in there and Gibbs White starting. I just think if Gibbs White, if you can look at it, obviously it's all ifs and buts in sport, but like if Gibbs White had stayed for a full season, we may have been pushing top 2 and maybe even have won the playoffs. So it's a big stretch, for one player, but he is that good. He went back to Wolves and started scoring some goals, didn't he? Even though he had some criticism, but anyway,
I thought he hardly top player.
Yeah, well, didn't he go back and play in the FA Cup straight away for them? And he scored the last-minute winner recently, didn't he, towards the end of the season?
Oh, he might have. I did check the other day. He didn't play loads, but I think he had the odd game Euro there.
If obviously we had to sell Roden for the financial situation, but if he stayed, it could have been. And if we managed to get a striker in January,
I think that's
or
the
if Morris managed to stay fit.
Who were we playing alongside Rodon again?
Cabango and Gigi.
Was it Cabango? I mean, can you imagine just the three of them rotating? Oh, might have been better than what happened with Bennett.
Well, if Bennett was free, I would have brought him in anyway instead of Latabodia, but he's one for the future. At least that's maybe harsh. I mean, just in terms of numbers, maybe you could bring Latabodia in and he goes out on loan if that was the case. But
anyway, I think like in terms of the season as a whole, I just think great season, more than what we expected. And I just give massive credit to Cooper again. I know like he gets a lot of stick, but I think just looking at the strength and depth that we had, get us through to a playoff final. All good credit to him.
Yeah.
No, I think we've got to credit the team mentality. Sorry, Luke. I mean, if you look at the interviews and stuff like that, the mentality he managed to instill in the players throughout, it seems, was just amazing. They just seemed very, very confident, I guess.
Well, they definitely want to play
as a group. But yeah, 100%. You can see that. You can see that in the passion, especially with the interviews of Gui and Ayu at the end of like the playoffs, for example. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that was consistent throughout the season, and maybe the season as a whole.
Ayu would not have been in a championship for 2 years if he didn't want to play for the manager.
Exactly. Yeah.
Doesn't matter how much.
You see every time. How many times did Ayu score and run over to Cooper?
Yeah, all the time. I think he genuinely like. He'd been called a mercenary before because obviously he left West Ham, he came back, went to Turkey, which I don't think was necessarily all like is doing. I don't think Potter wanted him, and he did save money anyway. I think it was kind of like expected. But for him to come back and do play the way he has and with the passion that he showed, I think he definitely deserves credit. People ask like, is he a legend or not? I don't think necessarily he fits into that bracket, but I think if there's a group just under, I would put him there. Maybe in the same sort of bracket, put like Wilfred Boney, not legend, because I would say that's like the Leon Brittons,
Idol,
Tates,
maybe.
But the one under, like very important player in, still I would say a very successful time for the club.
I agree with you. I think I will say though, I think if he got us promoted,
you would have maybe got that. I think that's maybe what it needed. But because he probably would have stayed another season if he gone up as well. That's why there was no announcement from before, and that's probably why he still haven't got a club, because he could have been talking to clubs since January, foreign clubs, and he hasn't got a club as I'm aware right now. I think he's in talks maybe with Celtic, but it just shows that he was committed to getting us up, and I think if we did go up, there would have been a 1-year extension and so on, because that just would have made sense. I think
we just need that experience if we went up anyway.
I need to put my light on. My camera's not working properly.
Well, whilst you're doing that, I got up the 2012-2013 League Cup final squad up, and the only player was Routledge on the left wing that we still have.
He did start, didn't you?
He did start, yeah. It was Trammell, Rangel, Key, Williams, Davis, Britton, De Guzman, Dyer, Hernandez, Routledge, Michu.
Crazy. Anyway, that's been good, I think. We like I said, we've got a couple more stuff coming, so we're going to do like an awards video for what we decide, so that'll be interesting. And then we'll have a lot of Euros content, probably. We'll get some stuff out for that. Hopefully Wales do well, but we can just cover the generals of what's going on anyway afterwards. Just, I don't know, maybe a weekly thing or something. Just have a bit of a recap and catch up of what's going on there. And after that, I think we're going to look at maybe players in the club, so who's maybe left, how we replace them, what we need to get in, and then try and have a little bit of a scouting series of players that we think could fit the bill. Probably dreaming maybe in some of them, because how often do you call a player that we actually sign? But we'll have a look around, see what we think is realistic and doable. Maybe we'll have one episode where it's like we'll take the realistic out, and I'm not saying we'll sign Messi, but have a look at the free transfer market and see who's knocking about. As unrealistic as it might be, we could just have a bit of fun with that. So got a couple of things in the pipeline to look forward to. But as always, let us know in the comments what you thought about what we've discussed so far and any other future ideas you would like to see us talk about. This video's not over yet though, so we've got a lot of guest appearances coming up. I will timestamp all of this, so this has been quite long, I understand. But each segment will be timestamped, so if you want to hop in and hop out of the video, you can jump to every person that you would like to hear speaking about their kind of review and how they found the season. So at the beginning, as I would have discussed, you'll know who's in the video, so check that out. And otherwise, it's goodbye from Aled and Lee, so cheers for coming on, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Been good to be back.
Yeah, well, I'll have to get back on more now. And it's on to the next one, so I don't actually know who I'm edited in first, so enjoy whoever it is. Thanks again. Okay, so I am joined now by Amy Clement, so welcome back to the channel, Amy.
Thank you.
So we're here today to discuss kind of like your thoughts and feelings on the season, your season review, if you like. So, we'll have a look at the games, the season as a whole, how you thought it went in terms of compared to your expectations from beforehand. Maybe have a little bit of a discussion about some of the players you thought did well. If you can remember a goal that stood out to you potentially, and maybe you can say about one or two signings you thought made a key impact this year as well. So let's start off with, what were your expectations, before we get into anything, what were your expectations before the season even kicked off? What did you think was going to happen this year?
I think expectations were playoffs for sure. After kind of sneaking in last year, you think, okay, hold on. We snuck in last year. Let's try and solidify a place in those playoffs. And I would say that we did that and more, considering the position we were in for most of the season. Obviously, it didn't work out with us getting promoted. But I think to improve on last season is amazing. And, there was always that worry, like, what if we don't make the playoffs and it's all going to feel like we're going backwards? But I think I expected playoffs. So to get playoffs, to finishing up in fourth, I think that's pretty decent.
I'm the same. We haven't actually recorded the bit what I'm going to say about my thoughts yet, but I've basically been saying all along, like, we got into the playoffs last year where we kind of like robbed the playoff places, if you like. That's a good way to put it. And I always thought, okay, this season, the expectation for me was to get there comfortably. Not necessarily
and we did.
Yeah, sixth could have been the same position as long as it wasn't a case of we just got in the last day, but we literally were in there all season as far as I can remember. Like maybe first couple of weeks, maybe we were just outside. I don't know, like because everyone, if they win their first game, it goes on goal difference and all the rest of it. But I think when we got in there, we were basically in there then for the rest of the
we sort of settled in, didn't we? And I think that's that's a step in the right direction. We're sort of now, are we considered as one of those sort of top 6 teams now? Possibly. We'll see how next year goes, but
maybe. I don't know how long that lasts in the championship, like the top 6 in it. Just like you look at Forest, where they've gone. Derby, they were in the playoffs with Frank Lampard like 2 seasons ago. Do you know what I mean? Like it changes. It's like there is the potential for change, or the potential, if you're Brentford, where they just kept building and building and building, and in the end it worked. So let's hope we're in that boat and not the other boat, but only time will tell. Okay, let's move on to actually what you thought about what happened then. So sum up the season as a whole. So I'm not saying to just look at these things, but some things you could try and mention, some standout moments, any areas that maybe you think cost us in the long run in terms of, I don't know, promotion, for example. Obviously, you just mentioned your expectations, so you did meet your expectations. But yeah, if you could just tell us about how you saw the season then.
Sure, yeah. I think the first half of the season, I think most Swans fans would probably say the same. But I think it was really impressive. I think what we did was good. We looked good. We did have a bit more of an attacking threat than we ended up with. I think the players that we had at that time we had a bit more of a well-rounded team, I feel, back then. This was before any, Routledge, Cullen injuries. We had Palmer, we had Gibbs-White, like we had all these like other players in the team, and the team looked like a team that could probably get promoted. And I think we started off well, and I was laughing the other day about over Christmas, I think it was, we got to a point where conceding a goal was like a failure. We were that good defensively that like if we had a goal go past us, it was like, oh my God, we've conceded a goal, which is, to think now, that's absolutely insane. And I do feel it was when we lost that game to Huddersfield, where we let 4 in. when we let one in and then the second one went in, and it was just, they just like ran riot.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling, I just have this thing inside me that was like, that was sort of the beginning of the bit of a downfall for us. I know people said, oh, it was the Norwich game. I can't remember where that Huddersfield game fits in with that game. But I think when I watched them then, I thought their confidence just went. They looked tired. And then from then on, you know, by this point, we didn't have Routledge, we didn't have Cullen. Palmer had gone back. Gibbs White, this feels like so long ago as well. They had all gone back, and we were left with sort of, I would say, quite a small squad. And a squad that, you know, at the start, we were all like, oh, we've got such good squad depth. And then by this point, I just feel like that depth had gone and the energy had gone. And then we were sort of out of options. I think that we have we had a lot of young players, people like Jamal Lowe, like how he's come up from, you know, Wigan and Plymouth, and from playing non-league football, like how sustaining a whole season in the Championship is not easy. It's not easy at all. And I think after that Huddersfield game, it was that sort of time, I think it was February or March, that was just, we just burnt out. If you want to put it simply, I feel like we just burnt out, and we didn't really have too many options on the bench to come on and change that. You know, but I think we dealt with it quite well overall. And I've enjoyed the season. It's been up and down, yeah, but it always is with the Swans, isn't it? It's never like plain sailing. Like some days we look absolutely world class, and other days we look absolutely terrible. It's always been a bit like that. I've enjoyed it. I think there's definitely some foundations to kind of go to push from now, and we've just got to wait and see what happens, I suppose. And in terms of standout moments, I mean, a few goals come to, like any Andre Ayew goal where he like pulls it into his left foot and scores. I just love that. I just absolutely love that. It's so good. And of course, like some of Jamal Lowe's goals have been absolutely fantastic. Like he's had a bad rep and he had a long time where he didn't score, but some of his goals are so good. And it's only when you look back at them and you think, wow, actually they're quite impressive. But yeah, it's been a weird one though, I think. Bit of a weird one.
Yeah, I think Lowe came from Portsmouth to Wigan.
Oh, not Clement, sorry. Yeah. Portsmouth.
Just, and what was the other thing you said? The Huddersfield and Norwich game. So
I
believe the Norwich game was like end of January, beginning of February. We just signed Morris, because I know he came on and should have won a penalty. And I think the Huddersfield game is the game when he got injured. So, like, he snapped his leg, didn't he?
I remember because we were all saying, you know, like the results crap, but to lose someone who was holding a lot of promise for us, he was what we needed.
Yeah.
He was starting to get game time, and then, you know, out for however long he won't be playing now, will he? So, that was one of those days where I just thought this isn't going so well anymore.
Apparently, he's going to be out for the rest of the year minimum. So, it's worse than what they thought when he went back. It's not looking good for him.
That's so sad. It breaks my heart. Yeah, it wasn't even anyone's fault, really. It wasn't even, you know, it was just a freak sort of landing, wasn't it? And
he jarred his leg running. I don't really understand. Like, maybe it's the way he runs or something, because he's done it in both legs. I don't really know.
It must be how he's made, but yeah, just things like that. You know, they were quite defining moments for the season, I feel.
Yeah. That's fair enough. You mentioned a couple of goals there. I know, like Andre Ayew's goals. The one in the playoffs, I think, was really good. There's been quite a few standout goals. Mac Grimes had a couple. Horahan had a couple when they were kind of competing against each other.
Horahan rocket was pretty impressive, wasn't it? There was a few like say Grimes, like just so I wanted more of that. Like I wish there was more. You know, I wish we had more of those types of goals. But
I think we had more of them than we usually have in the season, to be fair. But
we're never the type of team to, you know, I always find like over the past few years, like going to see the Swans, you just shout in, shoot, like no one's having a go. And I do think this season we've improved on that. People just having a go. Why not? Sometimes you score.
And I think George Byers last year was probably the one who scored most goals from outside the box. But he obviously really didn't play much this year. So we never know. He might come back next year now with Horahan going. I would take him back. Okay, a couple of things then. So, obviously you said basically did meet your expectations. You got into the playoffs comfortably. You know, could have been more. You've mentioned maybe where you thought that there could have been more kind of went wrong with the Huddersfield game. I think it was the Bristol City one at home as well.
Yeah,
you mentioned. It was a couple of dodgy ones, but it is what it is. I think you're right in terms of squad depth was an issue, especially after January. A couple of players recalled, even Gyökeres, not saying that he was the difference, but
someone different. Yeah.
After we had, Cullen and Routledge injured, and we had AU and Lowe for so long on their own, who weren't playing well, we couldn't get the ball to them, they couldn't score.
Yeah.
Maybe just someone to offer something different was what we needed,
exactly.
And we didn't have that. So, okay. Player of the season then, or young player of the season. What do you think about this?
Who do I think? Who would I give it to?
Yeah, so one for player of the season, and then depending on who it is, if it's someone older, then who would be a young player of the season?
I think my player of the season, I would actually give that to Grimes. I think looking back at the whole season, because I know he had a couple of dodgy weeks. But what I loved from him is that literally he had 2 games or something where he didn't start, and then he came back and he obviously had put work in. Like he put in so much energy to kind of change that around, and he did. And honestly, since then, the occasional poor decision, the occasional one, but otherwise he's led the team really well. I feel he's been really I think he's changed a lot. I used to get frustrated watching him that he would slow the pace down, but I actually think he's picked that up. I think he's been a bit snappier. He's been a bit more creative, and I think he's been great. And obviously some of his goals have been so good as well. And young player, I mean, we all know what I'm going to say, but it's Mark. Good old Mark Gehi, just so good, and he'll be sorely missed, I feel. Such a good player. And again, he's probably made 2 honking mistakes, and that's it. That one time where he did a dodgy pass and we conceded from it, and one in the playoffs, I think he had a bit of a shock of marking someone. That's it. That's the only thing over the whole season I can think of that he's done wrong.
Yeah.
And he'll have such a good future, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, no, they've been fantastic, both of them. I agree with you, Grimes. I think he is sometimes quite divisive with the Swans fan base, but I think he's the sort of player that you will miss him when he's not here, and he potentially might go this summer, so maybe that will come soon. But I think he does a lot of work, and you're saying about the pace, he does definitely dictate pace.
I think
he can only dictate what's ahead of him, though. Like, if the players aren't making the movement again into space, there's no one for him to pass.
And we definitely lack that a bit. I think a couple of years ago, I wasn't his biggest fan at all. So I think that's quite poignant that he's now someone that I would say, actually, this season, you've been amazing. Because 2 years ago, I remember just being on Twitter oh, Grimes, come on, it's not good enough. But now I'm no, he's pretty central to what we've done this year, I think.
Well, he was player of the season in the year that Potter was here. And then I think he was the one in between. So last season, essentially, the first year.
I think that was his.
People were on his back quite a bit. And the way I think what's happened is he played a little bit different under Potter because Potter's style was a lot different. Bearing in mind he came from left back, where Potter was using him at the start of the season to be an undroppable in midfield. Potter wasn't starting him at the start of the year in midfield, but by the end he couldn't drop him. So that's why he won player of the season. I think where the criticism came was because the difference in game style. People were looking at Grimes and thinking that's why we weren't necessarily doing some of the stuff we were doing the year before, but it's not. That wasn't necessarily the case. He's playing the way Cooper wants him to in this new system.
Sure,
and I don't think he's done too much different this year, except pushing on, like you said. But I think when he's not there, I just don't know who does his job now. We'd have to buy someone.
So central, yeah.
We'd have to buy someone if he leaves that replaces him like for like, because as much as I like Fulton, Smith, it's only Dander then because Horahan's gone, and if Byers comes back, nobody there is doing the same job as Grimes has done for the last 2 years. So
I feel like they're sort of an accessory to the main piece, not in no disrespect at all, but what Grimes is sort of that he's the central midfielder, isn't he? And then we sort of use Fulton, and Fulton's the kind of dogged one who gets possession back, puts in some decent tackles, and then you've got who have you got? Horahan, who's supposedly an attacking midfielder, or Dander, or he's sort of the main thing in the middle for me, and then everyone else kind of complements that. So you're right. You need someone big and confident and kind of a leader, don't you, in that central midfielder if he goes?
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
I don't think of anyone who would do that at the moment, but
yeah. Well, we won't talk too much about players leaving. There's going to be another video down the line on that. We'll look at who we might bring in as well. So that's something to look forward to in terms of the content for the summer. You mentioned goal of the season. You got a specific one that you're going to pick?
That's really hard. I think it's so cliche, but that Jamal Lowe Cardiff outside of the foot was just so good. He just took everyone on. He was confident. Like, it was just so good.
It's funny you mention that because it's just been tweeted out about 20 minutes ago.
Maybe that's why it's in my mind.
The Swans have actually given that player goal of the season.
Really, I love that. If it wasn't Cardiff, it wouldn't be goal of the season.
It's a good goal, to be fair. Like,
it is a good
it's nice to see someone dribble and put it in the net. We don't see it that often, and I can't think of another one this season. So, very good goal.
As well, just the timing of it. Like he had come in and we weren't sure about him, were we? And it just he just sort of went, I'm here and I want to score goals and I want to be a part of this club. And everyone sort of went, okay.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Last one then. Signing of the season.
That's hard. Trying to think. I was really enjoying Smith, but then he had the injury and then he hasn't really kind of made himself back in, has he? I mean, you have to cancel out all the loans.
No, you can have a loan. You could pick a loan. They were still signed for the year, so you could pick a loan.
I think I'm going to go for Freddie.
Freddie Woodman.
I know he was here last time as well, but I think he's been class. Like, sure, we have to compliment the defence for his record, but he's made some awesome saves. Sure, a few mistakes as well. Like, he's a young keeper, and I think he loves. You can just tell he likes being a Swansea player. I like that. He has a lot of like love and passion for the club, and I think he's been great, to be honest.
Well, you don't win the Golden Glove if you're not a good season, that's for sure.
Oh, exactly. So, and I think he's a bit overlooked sometimes in the Championship.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, you're in the Championship. It's the second tier of the Premier League for a reason, and I know he gets criticism for some things, but there's a reason why he's a young keeper on loan from a Premier League club to a Championship club, and that's to learn, and that is what he's done. So you're going to get some outstanding games, and you're going to get some that you could do better, but that is what's going to happen.
Sure.
So.
I had there was like a conversation going on about Tim Krul and how like he was like close to winning the Golden Glove, etc., etc. And then I was like, Tim Krul is about 9 years older than Freddie Woodman, like.
Might it's such an achievement.
Yeah, possibly. I think Freddie's 24, 25, and he's like 36, 35. Yeah, and you just think, that is such good work from Freddie, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for that.
And Tim Krul has been in like World Cups and penalty shootouts and stuff like that.
Comparing the two is like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Premier League experience. So yeah, look, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate your views. I'm sure we'll catch up with you again in the summer. We have mentioned maybe doing a proper full podcast. Well, I won't give too much away about it now. We'll finish our end of season stuff first, and then we'll get that sorted. Probably maybe sometime in the middle of the Euros or something, because that starts next week, doesn't it? So
that'll be fun.
Yeah, that'll be good. So thanks again, Amy, and she'll catch you next time.
See you later.
Okay, so I'm joined now by Alex from the Send Him Off podcast. So if you haven't already done so, they've been on a couple of times. We've been on their channel a couple of times, but check out their podcast. They are Swansea fans, but you also do other stuff, don't you, in regards to what you talk about on your podcast. And it's not all just Swansea, is it?
Yeah, no, our podcast, I think Sam's, well, I do it with my mate Sam, and our tagline has always been like a podcast about football, like by football fans. Yeah. So we just talk about, Premier League, Championship, anywhere across the continent, over the world, really, but we are Swansea fans, and we never really deviate too far away from the Swans, but,
Yeah, that's
how it is.
So do you want to remind everyone where they can find you on like Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify?
Yeah, again, this is sort of Sam's domain. I'm not great at doing this, but you can follow us on Instagram at Send Him Off Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Send Him Off Pod. You can go on YouTube and subscribe to us on YouTube. I think that's just the Send Him Off Podcast, and then just all your Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Send Him Off and we'll be there.
And if they get in quick enough as well, you've got a little bit of a league going on only for the Euros.
Yeah, we got a Euros league. We got about, I think it's at the minute, at the time of recording this, we got like 220 something people. So
That's
if
crazy.
you want to join in, mate, we were expecting about 10 or 12. And then
well, when I joined, there was only about 10 in there, I think.
Yeah, I know. So like that's blown up a little bit. So look, everybody, if you're watching this in time, get in. Because it's going to be competitive.
You need to have a prize now, after news. You've got that many people in there.
I know. We were thinking about that. Me and Sam were sort of cocking ourselves now because we're like, we should have done a prize.
No, you could just announce it on your podcast who wins and maybe like, I don't know, do something trivial as a prize. Make a little cup or something and put the name on it.
Yeah.
And then you can carry it on by doing like a championship one next season or something.
Yeah, we could do that actually. There we are. You heard it first then, guys. There we are. That's the prize.
And then you can just add to the name onto the cup every season, whoever wins it.
It'd be like the Ashes or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Anyway, so cheers for coming back on.
No worries at all.
So let's start this off. I'm sure everyone watching by now knows the format that we're going with. But okay, so before the season kicks off, then I know it's hard to talk about this now because with hindsight and everything, it's like difficult to remember necessarily how we were feeling, but what were your expectations before the season started, of the season?
I think I was a bit indifferent, to be honest with you. I wasn't like overly expecting anything because obviously by the time we got to Christmas, everybody's expectations were through the roof. But like, so towards August, September, I was a bit like, do you know what? I'm not too bothered. I didn't think we'd make playoffs. I thought sitting 8th, that'll be fine for me. But
yeah.
I knew we wouldn't, get relegated or anything like that, but I didn't think we'd finish in the playoffs either.
Yeah, fair. I wasn't fully confident we get playoffs. I think I said, like, I would expect us to push on from last year in a way that last year we snuck in. So I would like to, even if it was 6th again, to get in and be like, not on the last day. Yeah. Not just like getting in on the last day of the season, which I guess we kind of did that in the end. But
yeah, it was
a little bit more maybe than that. So for me, like, that's good. Sum up the season then after you've seen what's happened now. So a couple of things that you can maybe add in to talk about. So season review, and then any sort of stand-up moments that were really good. Any areas that maybe, I guess if you got up and downs, you could talk about any downs or areas that might cost us in the long run. And then, did it match your expectations?
It's been a funny season. There's no getting around that. And there's as far as standout moments go, like I found myself because I got a season ticket and I found myself watching the football and there were times where like our style of play would sort of like turn me off and I'd be a bit like, not too fast watching and I sort of zone out, zone in, zone out. But I feel like our run of games where we got to Christmas, I think that was pretty standout because if we didn't have that run of games, I don't think our form after Christmas would have got us anywhere near the playoffs. So I think we were living off the back of the success we had before Christmas to get to where we finish, obviously.
Yeah, I would also include January in that. So
that
January, extra month probably does push us on, I think. Like you said, after that, the form probably wasn't good enough. And if you had that extra month of January where that form was indifferent as well, could well have dropped out. So, but yeah, that's the whole point, though. A season is, what is it, 46 game season?
Exactly. People talk about the Invincibles with Arsenal. You're not going to get that, and I think a lot of Swansea fans were kind of expecting that. And I think I can't remember. When did we lose our first game? It wasn't until October, wasn't it?
We did lose one like early on.
Did we? I can't remember now.
Not early on, but October is quite early. You know what I mean? We lost, I think, maybe like either 2 or 3 before Christmas, but that's not that much, really.
The Championship is not a league where you're going to go undefeated. No. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you've got in your team. You're not going to go undefeated. Our first loss. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but our first loss was against Huddersfield at home. Oh well,
we shouldn't have lost that game.
But exactly, yeah, and there is always you don't lose your home games. You got to try and win all your home games. But if you don't win them, draw them or whatever. But it's just how it is. You're not going to win them all. So I think a lot of Swansea fans were sort of expecting a lot, and you'll see a lot now, like the repercussions of that thing, like Cooper out, this, that, and the other, which personally I disagree strongly with. I couldn't disagree more with them saying Cooper out because I can't see anybody better than him for us right now.
No, he's operating on a limited budget and he's playing the style of football that's like he can get out of the team, is what he thinks.
Yeah.
You might disagree, but the bottom line is if he doesn't think they're going to perform to get fourth place playing a different way, then that's why he's doing it. So anyway, we're not necessarily here to dissect Cooper himself. I'm sure there'll be another video on that. Like, that's a big topic in itself. Like, there's stuff you could talk about on both sides in that argument. But I agree. I tend to agree with you. I wouldn't call for him to go. But yeah, I think you're right. Like, first half of the season was definitely, I would say, overperforming. So that's kind of why it equaled out maybe where the last 2 months, or at least like February, March, I would say, after the Norwich game, all of March. Maybe then we came back a little bit, but underperformed for those 2 months, but it kind of balanced out in the long run. But there are factors that I've discussed with, like I just had Ollie that was on, and you know, the injuries to like Gibbs White, for example. Even though we got away with it in the first half of the season, him coming back, when he came back, if we had kept him, would have been massive because creativity was an issue. We couldn't get Low and Ayew in the game for like 2 months, which we basically couldn't score because we couldn't get him in the game. Him being there maybe changes that. Morris as well, like a different dimension with the pace and all that. Who knows, isn't it? But
this season, I think, is a season of what could have been.
Yeah.
It was one of them ones because Gibbs White was a different quality when he was down here. If Joe Roden had stayed, if Gibbs White would have stayed,
funnily enough, though, I think Joe Roden was probably the one what we would have missed the least because I think our defence was probably the strength.
Very solid defence. And I know sort of, you know, we had to switch up the system, but having Joe Roden in a 3 at the back system, I think I would have preferred to have Joe Roden there rather than Ryan Bennett personally, you know, for obvious reasons. Yeah. But I do think it would have. We might not have shipped as many goals as we did afterwards, just because I feel like Joe Roden is more of a solid defender with a bit more legs on him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, Bennett's a bit older. He's got maybe a little bit less pace, and I think like as much as I think he's solid, he's been solid when he's played, and I really like him as a player.
I love him.
I agree with you. Maybe like he got injured quite a lot with his muscle injuries 3 or 4 times. And maybe Roden wouldn't have done that, although his injury record last season wasn't great. But you'd have to say you'd expect it not to be the case, same sort of injuries. So even if it's for that consistency, then potentially, yeah, it could have been a better result. But at the same time, you know, it was like 3rd or 4th defence in the league. So
yeah,
probably not the area we would have benefited the most. I think the other 2 is probably a bigger miss. But definitely, 100%. Like if we had kept him, who knows, isn't it? But yeah, but I think like, it was such a weird season around COVID. I think a lot of teams would be saying the same thing in terms of what could have been like a season of unknowns, no fans, weird travel circumstances, maybe different to what you'd normally expect, testing all the time, staying in their bubble. You know, it's a weird experience for the players, and I guess whoever deals with that the best has a better season. And you know, we were 4th in the league, so we didn't exactly deal with it badly, did we? So
no. Not by any means, you know. I think we dealt with it quite well personally, but and our travel is always like we're going to be traveling a lot more than most of the other teams other than Cardiff, you know. But we'll be traveling quite a way, so
still an extra hour.
Bringing that into consideration, but
still an extra hour.
Yeah, it is an extra hour on top of Cardiff, so you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think we dealt with it quite well personally.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so. Looking at the players specifically then, so who would you say your player of the season is? And depending who you pick in, who would be your young player of the season?
Well, when you came on ours, was it you came on ours? I believe you did.
Yeah.
Because it was Sam's idea to give the player of the season, and me and Sam both said Connor Roberts, and he actually went on to get, was it player of the season or fans player of the season?
Yeah, I think it was fans. He had 3. I can't remember. One of them was like a sponsor one, maybe it was players as well and fans.
But yeah, I will stick with Connor. I think he's had an outstanding season. He's very dependable. But if it wasn't Connor Roberts, I think I'm going to go with, I think it was either yours or Lee's choice of Jay Fulton. Did either of you say him?
I think I've gone Grimes. He might have gone Fulton.
But
I think he said Grimes in another video, so maybe he's flip-flopping a bit. But I'll call him out when I speak to him.
It goes to show because it's not just I said Connor Roberts, you said Grimes, someone else said Fulton. And then nobody's been, you know, head and shoulders above anyone else. Everybody's performed, I feel like, to the best of their ability with one or two exceptions, a few clangers have been dropped. Obviously, nobody has a perfect season, but I feel like everybody's really put a shift in, and they wanted to get to at least the playoffs.
Yeah.
And the desire to get to Wembley was obvious. Yeah. It was really obvious.
And as much as their performance in Wembley maybe wasn't as good as what we would expect, you could tell.
I don't want to talk about Wembley.
No. I wanted to say,
I bumped into Lee. I didn't have enough time to talk to him. Yeah, I was literally on my way back to the car because we had parked in some multi-story and we had to get it out to there. But yeah, I did say hello to Lee. But we both had a face like a slapped ass. So we were just like,
what I was going to say was that after the game, you could see how much it did mean to them, even though they maybe didn't play as well as they should have. They definitely it did hurt them. They definitely wanted to win. You know what I mean? Like some people said, it was no passion or whatever, but not the case. I don't think. Definitely visibly upset after they didn't win. Okay, goal of the season then.
Goal of the season. The reason I'm saying this is because it sticks in my memory now. I never pick goal of the season like the flashiest goal. I never pick the flashiest goal. I pick the best. I always pick the one that I remember, and I'm picking this one because I remember it, and it's the goal. I say I remember it. I can't remember who scored it, but I remember it was the goal against Reading where we turned the corner. Who was it that finished that goal? That little flipper on the corner.
Jay Felton runs on, doesn't he? Does he finish it?
Yeah. I can't remember.
It might be Jamal Lowe, actually.
It might have been Lowe. It might have been, but it was that goal against Reading, and
I'll tell you now. I will find out for you.
Yeah.
So we drew that game 2-2, yeah?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so it was Jamal Lowe and Andre Ayew scored in that game.
So Lowe, isn't it?
Yeah, because Ayew did the flick, so it would be Lowe. Where Felton runs through, I think he has a shot or something, and it gets saved or deflected or something, and he's got a tap in, I think, Lowe. So something like that happened.
Yeah.
If I remember.
But again, that's not the flashiest goal, but I think it was Ayew's build up to it. It was so silky. You could see his class, and he's been released. He'll walk into a Premier League club. He'll walk into a top league anywhere in the world now.
Yeah.
But for me, that was my goal of the season.
Yeah.
Because I think that showed the quality of the team. The quality the team had there.
Yeah. Well, Jamal Lowe is 100% of the votes since I've done these videos. But that's the first goal that's different.
Who said his goal against Cardiff?
Everyone else.
Everyone else. There you are. Right. Thought so.
Well, I mean, it is a good goal, to be fair, and it's against Cardiff, so.
That's a goal. Yeah, exactly. And, that's a close second.
Plus, it did win the official one on the Swans awards. Yeah, I think.
I didn't see that one, but again, understandable.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's fine. Oh, you mentioned Conor Roberts for your player of the season, didn't you?
Yeah.
So who would you have given young player for season 2? Because I don't quite class him anymore as young player.
Yeah, no, he's not quite anymore, is he? I think Liam Cullen, probably. I mean, I can't think of too many other players who would have. Latabordia didn't really have too many games. Any that I can remember.
If I list the ones that probably could be in contention, you've got Geehee, you've got Cabango, you've got Whittaker, Dander, probably wouldn't. I mean, I'm just saying the young players that probably featured heavily. But yeah, Latabordia and...
I wouldn't have wanted to say... Who?
Who did you say, sorry?
No, I was going to... For me, it was a toss-up between Cullen and Gee.
Yeah.
He has been so solid, and I know Cullen had his injury, but a part of me wants to say Cullen just because he's a Swansea boy, and I know Gee's going back to Chelsea.
Yeah.
But I think deep down it would be wrong of me not to say Gee because he has just been solid. I was on a live with I know him as Chris, Swansea City fan, and Sam is going to love that I've dropped his name. I don't know if you know him on Instagram, but he called him Superman. His Superman, and to be fair, he has been like Superman this season on a number of occasions. To be fair, and I can't disagree with that.
Is it the one that was with Joe Rodon the other day? Yeah,
Sam Rodon. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Sam Rodon. Yeah. No, I know. Well, fair enough. I didn't see that live. I'll have to check it out if it's up.
You will. Honestly, if whoever's listening to this, check that out. Check that out.
Where can we see it?
You can see it on Sam. I think it's on Sam Rodon's Instagram, and it's on his Instagram, what they call IGTV or whatever it is. I don't know. Just check it out.
Is that the one you're on?
No, we went on that. I was just watching it. Remember, I think
okay.
we were.
Yeah.
And afterwards, but yeah, go and check it out, guys.
Okay.
It's worth your time.
Definitely. Okay, and last question then. So, would you say your signing of the season is?
Oh gosh, my signing of the season.
Difficult.
I would have said. Yeah, I know. I was pushing for time. Like, if Gibbs White had stayed fit, it would have been him. From what I saw of him, but he didn't. I can't say Guy, can I?
Well, he was on loan money, so yeah.
Yeah. Who did we sign this? Give me some names.
No, I would say you can say him if you want, but then
I feel like it's a bit of a cop out.
Bennett, Woodman, Manning.
No, I'm sticking with Guy. I'm sticking with Guy. I'm going against the grain. I'm going to stick with Guy.
Corey Smith, Jamal Lowe.
No, Guy.
Oh,
Guy.
Okay. Well, I think you decided anyway, didn't you? So there we are, Guy.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
No,
I mean, he's been a solid.
He has been fantastic, and it was nice to see them finally, in person play.
Yeah.
But no, he's been solid all season, Guy. Yeah. And I wish him all the best when he goes back. He's gonna, he'll excel at Chelsea.
Yeah, kind of any criticisms. It's kind of a shame he had such a good season because we definitely ain't going to get him back next year.
Yeah.
He's either I don't know if he'll go straight into their first team. I'd like to think he could, but I just feel like they'll probably ship him to a Premier League team first.
But he'll
be fine wherever he goes. I think he's
definitely good enough. He'll be a rock.
I mean, he threw Sterling on the floor like it was nothing, didn't he? So
exactly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So
anything else you want to say after all this now in terms of the season? Any more thoughts that we haven't touched?
There's not too much. I think the only thing I can think about really is just I'm so looking forward to getting back down to Liberty and seeing everybody, like seeing the stadium bouncing. It was so nice that when we were at Wembley, my I don't know about Lee, but my voice was gone before the whistle had blown. So it was so nice just to finally get it out there and do what you've missed doing. But yeah. Well, looking forward to seeing everyone.
I don't get to all the home games, but I'm sure when I do get to an away game, that we'll be able to have a pint or whatever. I'm sure that will.
Yeah, 100%.
Unfortunately, my job doesn't allow me to get season tickets, so I'll try to go as much as I can, though. But yeah,
get down as much as you can.
Yeah,
100%.
Well, cheers for coming back on, Alex. Shame Sam couldn't join us this time. I'm sure you'll be back in the future. So if you want to remind everyone where you can find you both, and what you do.
Yeah, so like I said at the beginning, we're a football podcast. We talk football, obviously we're Swansea fans, so we do drop Swansea now and again. You can find us on YouTube, Send Him Off Podcast. You can find us on Instagram at Send Him Off Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Send Him Off Pod, and you can, if you Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you find your podcasts, just Send Him Off, and you should find.
And I'll try and link all of this stuff in the description if I remember. There's going to be a lot to link in this one, but
there's going to be a heck of a lot of linking in that one.
It should. Hopefully, I'll get it all in there, right? I think I'll try my best. Otherwise, we often tweet each other back and forth when we're doing stuff together, so I'm sure you'll see their name tagged in our tweets if you're following us. So anyway, check them out, and thanks for coming on, Alex, and I shall see you next time.
Thanks very much for having me.
No problem. Okay, so I'm joined by Ollie now, so welcome back to the channel, Ollie. Second appearance, I believe.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Do you want to just remind everyone, like, who you are, where you are on Twitter, maybe what you do in regards to like your blog and stuff like that?
Yeah. Okay. So Twitter, you can find me SCFC Ollie, and I've got the Vibe Football blog as well, which you might have come across or might not have, but take a look at it if you haven't, where I post a lot of Swans related stuff, but also lots of things like from the wider world of football to talk about on there. So hopefully lots of stuff coming about the Euros on there soon.
Get some good conversations going on there. I have had a look at some of it. It's a pretty good read, so check that out. I'll try to remember. We've got a lot of people in this video. I'm going to try and link as much as I can to your relevant stuff, so if anyone wants to find any of the guests today's content, or Ollie's blog, for example, and their Twitters and so on, check out the description, so everything should be down there. I say it should because guaranteed I'll leave one out. You know how it is.
It's hard to remember.
Okay, so before we get into everything in regards to, like, obviously we're at the end of the season now, I just want to, I've asked everyone this so far, and I just want to sort of get a grasp of what you were expecting before the season kicked off. So what were your... It's hard to ask this now because you can kind of change your answer, but be as honest as possible. What were your expectations going into the season?
Before the season, I had a go at predicting the Championship, League One and League Two, so obviously did predict where Swans would finish. And I had the 7th, so in that respect, we've outperformed how I thought we would. But in another way, I did always think we'd do a little bit better than that, and just did that as a sort of conservative guess. I always thought we'd make playoffs. I think automatics always seemed to be a bit of a pipe dream, and we were always overperforming when we were in that race. But playoffs is a good season, and to get to Wembley, even if we didn't get the result we want, I think I would have taken that at the start of the season.
Yeah, so you kind of touched on my next point. I was just going to ask for like kind of an end of season, what's the review or the end of the season then? Because obviously you said you expected you said 7th, but maybe thought playoffs were more achievable. So after seeing how it panned out then, what would you say now? Do you think we overperformed, underperformed? Any areas you think maybe stood out as highs, or maybe areas that were like definitely where we missed out or where the opportunity was lost, if you like? And obviously did it meet your expectations?
I mean, I think we could have had a slightly better season if certain bits of luck had panned out for us as we'd have liked. The two obvious examples that come to my head there are Morgan Gibbs-White and Jordan Morris. Their injuries, I think if they hadn't got injured, we'd have been further up the table. I think we could have picked Brentford to 3rd, maybe even Watford to 2nd. And obviously, it's easy to look back with the benefit of hindsight, but the games they played and the pride and knowledge I have of those two, they looked excellent for us and would have been huge players for us this season. But I think overall it's been a great season. We've clearly made some progress from last season, going from 6th to 4th, but also going from not going to the final to get into Wembley. So I think it has been a good year, but of course, when we get to Wembley and have a 90 minutes away from the Premier League, you always feel a bit sad that we didn't get there.
Yeah, exactly. I think I agree with you. Like, at the end of the day, though, there's 4 teams in the playoffs and only one of them wins. So, like, exactly. You've got a 25% chance, essentially, of winning. So it's not like nobody sort of deserves, or not deserves, but like no one's entitled to win in that. You've got to earn it and deserve it. And obviously we didn't on both occasions this time. But the last time we were in the playoffs before that, we did. So that's like 1 out of 3 in the last 3. So, it's not really a really bad record considering the possibilities and the probabilities around it. It's just the way it is in football sometimes. You can't always be that team that comes out on top in those situations, because every other team is also saying the same. They want to go up. They expect their team to do it, and just got to deal with the disappointment sometimes, haven't you? But it's about learning from that and moving forward. And I think, like you said, we took the step from last year where we went from the semi-final. We learned from that. We won that tie, got to the final. So can we do it again where we take the positives out of that final, take the experience, if you like? If we do get to the playoffs next year, then put it all together and actually come out on top this time. Hopefully we'll not get in the playoffs and get top 2, but that's thinking
I'm not confident.
That's thinking well ahead. I'm not saying that we should do that, but obviously that's like dreaming it. But we can't really discuss anything about that, I think, until at least start of the season. We've seen some of the transfer activity maybe and what the team's looking like. If Cooper, there's a decision made in regards to him staying or going, there's a long time to go until we start talking about, I think, pre-season expectations. But yeah, I kind of agree with a lot of what you said there. And the injuries as well, I think they were massive, and it's good that you pointed those two out, because I would agree with you. Gibbs-White, as much as we only really had him for 6-7 games really.
There was always that hope in the back of our minds that he was going to come back. And I always remember that cameo that he had against Watford where he literally just took the mick out of it.
Exactly. So you could see how creative he was, and what we were missing was creativity. So that was a big loss, regardless of how little he really played in the season. We got away with it in the first half, but when we got found out, we needed his quality to ask the defence questions for the opposition. We just didn't have that. And then the other one, Jordan Morris, I think his pace is what we missed there. I think he would have been good as well. He was definitely gelling into the team. Should have won a penalty at Norwich. And again, something that we missed was a bit of
Yeah, no, he would have
fast
definitely given
threat.
something.
Yeah. Okay. Having said all that, then, who would you say your player of the season is? And depending on who they are, your young player of the season.
My player of the season definitely doesn't qualify for the young player of the season category because I find it pretty difficult to look past Andre Ayew. I voted for him in my player of the season with the Swans. Thought about voting for Connor Roberts, but my head was telling me I had to vote for Andre.
Connor Roberts won that award in the end, didn't
he? Yeah. But I think Andre was the obvious answer. I think we might be in big trouble without him next season. His experience in the dressing room is clearly so important. He's such a leader on the pitch. He's always rallying the troops out there. But also at the same time, his defensive work and the work he does off the ball, and that just moments of quality that he gives us, just make him stand out from the rest for me. I mean, there's 4 obvious candidates in my mind, which were Roberts, him, Gray, and Grimes. I think Grimes is definitely with a shout as well.
He's mine, to be fair. So
yeah, he's been excellent for us this season. I think if we lose him in the summer, we'll be a lot worse off without him.
Yeah, I know. Maybe it's because I expected Ayew to go, but I think if Grimes go, I will be more upset than Ayew going. But I think that's just because I think we've all known that if we don't go up, Ayew's going to go. So that's kind of been accepted for a while. Whereas I think Grimes is someone that, as much as he's not our product, because we did get him from Exeter, he kind of feels like he is because he came at such a young age, was there in the academy for a long time, went out on a lot of loans, and to see him come through and just become such an important player and become club captain, it's just nice, isn't it, to see that. As much as he's not all the time in Swansea, we brought him in at a young age because he had potential, and it's good to see him coming through and actually realising that potential. Same as like McBurney and Dan James and Fulton, for example, he's another one.
Yeah.
And Byers, actually. But Grimes especially, I think I'll be more upset and worried if
I'll be devastated if he leaves. Because it's losing, and not just obviously the benefit that him and Andre give us on the pitch, but the losing your captain and vice captain.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that aspect. That's like a double whammy. It's like you lost your vice captain already. Losing your captain, I don't even know who would be the next. It'd probably be if Routledge stays. The thing is, he's not really going to be on the pitch too much.
No.
I mean,
Corey Smith came to my mind because he used to be captain of Bristol.
Maybe Ryan Bennett.
I have thought about this. Yeah. But again, just the people who are the leaders, isn't it?
It doesn't feel as like, because they haven't, as much as they're experienced, they haven't been at the club as long. And I know that's not always how you should pick the captain. But sometimes you want both, where they're experienced and they've been at the club for a while. But like Routledge is hardly going to play. So whether it's not like kind of when Monk and Britton were captain for their stints, they weren't always necessarily in the team. So maybe it'll be a case of he is the captain and the vice captain is the one that's leading on the pitch a lot of the time. That might be something, I don't know. But from Cooper's last pick, where he picked Grimes as a young captain, I would maybe say he would go that route again. And I don't know, maybe Felton or
Connor Roberts, perhaps.
But then is he going to be here? So again, that's another question.
Yeah, true. I feel like his end of season form, where certainly we have seen a drop off from how he was towards the start of the season, where he's been playing more as a traditional right back than in his wing back role.
Due to the formation change, though, isn't it? And I'm not sure it was like he was winger sometimes and he was right back sometimes. So, and he was on the bench a lot. So I wonder. It's difficult to judge.
I wonder if potential suitors have been maybe slightly turned off by the end of the season.
Maybe, but I doubt it. And they've also got the Euros to judge him on. So, but then if he does have a really good Euros, that could add value. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We're also apparently interested in that Nico Williams, aren't we? So he's right back.
He's brilliant.
We've got Norton and Roberts. Maybe that's not a good sign, but we'll see what happens there as well.
I really like Nico. Looking forward to seeing him playing for Wales this summer.
Yeah, but I mean, if we sign him, why do we need 3 right backs? That's the question.
Oh no, I think if we signed him, it would be because obviously he can also play left back as well. But we've got 2 solid left backs. I think he's a sort of if we lose Roberts.
Unless Cooper has decided he is going full on 5 at the back again and Norton centre back in that eyes. So
maybe
we'll have to see. I hope he doesn't. I want him to stick with a 4. But anyway, that's all pre-season stuff. That's not what we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks maybe. But last couple of things then. Young player of the season.
I mean, Mark Way, it kind of has to be. He's been I remember a few months ago now, one of my friends found an old tweet of mine which said that he'd be at Crawley Town in 5 years after his after his performance against Stoke. And I could
last year, like his first couple of games were a bit ropey, weren't they? But that's one now you don't want to be dug up. Yeah.
No. And I think to show that he's come from me thinking he'd be at Crawley to me thinking he's a Champions League defender in waiting, it just shows how much he's progressed this year, how much of a leader he's been for us. He's been an ever-present at the back because we've rotated Cabango, Norton, Bennett, Latabodia a little bit. He's been there every time. He's been the one. He's so comfortable on the ball. He's just clearly plays with this sense of maturity that you just don't get with 21-year-old defenders. And I think the fact he hasn't been in every team of the season I've seen for the Championship this season is crazy, to be honest.
I know. I can't believe he didn't get into the official one. I've seen a lot of people calling that out that aren't even Swans fans. But I find that crazy. If there was one player I thought that was going to get in from our team, I thought it would be him because defensively, like, he's been so solid and ever present, as you said. I just thought that was a bit odd. I think, like, and this isn't just because I'm biased, because I'm a Swansea fan, but Morrison from Cardiff getting in, the only reason he's got in ahead of him is because he scored more goals. That's literally the only reason. But I'm not being funny. As much as it's good to have a goal scoring centre-back, the primary job of a centre-back is to stop the goals going in your net. And Geehy's been amazing in doing that. So I just feel like that's a bit of a... Sometimes when you see team of the seasons, like the stats and all this stuff, like people put goals above everything else. And I think on that part of the pitch, they should be a secondary thing. It's obviously a good bonus, but it should be defence first.
If you need to rely on your defender to score goals to win you matches, then they're clearly not doing their job properly.
I would have said that about if he played for any team, not Cardiff. Like, he obviously is a good player for Cardiff. It's really important for them. But their season's been up and down at different points. Geehy's been consistent all year. And as much as we didn't finish with the best defence in the league, I think he was still like third or fourth best or something.
Yeah.
So,
and Woodman won the Golden Glove, and that's not just down to him, it's down to defence as well. Yeah. I know he's not, he's 24, maybe 25, I'm not 100% sure. Woodman is not like traditionally young player. I always think of under 23 when I think
like keepers, isn't he?
Yeah. In goalkeeping terms, he's very young and probably deserves a shout in that category as well. Because despite a few shaky moments this season, on the whole, he's been excellent.
Yeah, definitely. He's taken a lot of criticism. Sometimes I think too much so and a bit unjust. He definitely deserves it sometimes, and it's good to be constructive and call people out when it's like, not call him out, but like say, okay, he's made an error, he needs to learn from that, that's fine. But like there's been a lot of calls that are a bit too far, I think. But he does definitely deserve a shout out. As I said previously, the reason he's in the Championship is to learn. He's going to make them mistakes. He's a young keeper. He's not in Newcastle's first team for these reasons. He's sent here to make them mistakes. He's made them. He's going to learn from them. That's literally why he's here. If he weren't making them mistakes, he wouldn't be here. So,
and there's been a lot of shouts that he won the Golden Glove because of the defence and whatever. But
it's both ways.
At the end of the day,
both
exactly.
Contribute. So,
I think
you also saved a couple of penalties.
Oh God, he's great with his penalties. Woodman is he really? I mean, I remember. The one that always sticks out is last season when he saved that one at Fulham, and he's clearly an expert in that category.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just shows he's good. He's a good keeper. His distribution is probably my biggest area of concern, but that's something you can work on. So I think
You're never going to get. Yeah, you're never going to get the finished article when you're signing young goalkeepers.
You're never going to get the finished article in the Championship. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in this league, would they? They'd be in the higher league. So
that's very true.
Okay, so goal of the season then?
There's one winner, really. Jamal Logan is Cardiff. Not just for the occasion.
100% that has been so far. Every single person has said the same. So
not just for the occasion. It was the best goal we scored this season. The run, the bit of skill that he did, it was just perfect.
I said to the others that have said, like, we don't really see that sort of goal much, Swansea fans, like where a player's like running, like from quite far out, just after the halfway line, I believe, running through some players and taking them on, and actually also having the finished article themselves. We don't necessarily, sometimes we see on a counter-attack where someone has a run, passes it 1-2, 1-2, and then it goes in. But for one person to take it on, run through some players and have a shot and it goes in, we don't see that very often. So it was like, and to be against Cardiff in the game that it was, like, just makes it even better. So, that's definitely one to shout out, and I think it won
In
the actual goal of the season, didn't it, for the Swans?
if we're going over a second place or whatever, the Matt Grimes goal in the cup against Forest, that was a lovely strike as well. But obviously, I mean, there's no contest for Jamal Lewis' goal against Cardiff.
I think all of Grimes' goals this season probably in contention. Really, they were all outside the box. I think.
I totally forgot about the playoff one. Now you mention it,
And was there one against Rotherham as well away?
Yeah, yeah, he scored some lovely goals.
Yeah. Okay, and last question then. So signing of the season.
I'm edging towards Guehi, but I don't feel he's a traditional signing because he was here last season.
Loan seasons can count, but if you're saying if he was like, well, I guess technically when he got signed, he was signed on an 18-month when
he kind of we didn't kind of, we all knew he was coming back, so it doesn't almost feel like a signing.
It was in the deal already, wasn't it? It was just like you had to trigger if you want him, keep him like.
So I think I'd probably go Jamalo. I think we've made some great signings this season. I think Corey Smith has been an asset for us this season. Manning, I think will come good and play a bigger role for us than he has this season next year. I'm trying to think of all the different players we signed because we've had some.
Whittaker.
We've had a couple of.
Whittaker can't be close to that bracket, though. I think he hasn't played enough to get.
No. But we have had some. We have had some interesting ones as well. We've had some bad luck, I think. But we've had with obviously a couple of people who I don't think have quite performed to the level they should have. But Lowe takes it for me. I think he's been excellent this season.
Yeah, he's definitely done well. Was it like 14 goals? I think he ended on, and we were criticising his form at certain stages, which he did have quiet spells, but I think maybe it was more to do with the full team thing that resulted in him having a lack of confidence as a result of the team struggling. But then at the same time, two of our players finished like 14 plus goals. We would have taken that at the start of the season based on like last year, especially. Ayew was like. It was Ayew scores or no one until Brewster came, and then it was Brewster scores or no one. It just missed that out and out strike of a long pass of the season, which could have even made him play that little bit better, especially in them periods where he was quieter. But I think, considering he was asked to play in a role that wasn't his first choice or preferred role at the start of the season, I think he's had a really good season.
Yeah, I think it's pretty hands down that he wins it. He's been fantastic when he's been on form. But even when he hasn't been scoring the goals and he's been having these barren runs, you can still see the effort he's putting in for the team. He's running the hard yards. He's doing his share of the work. And I think you've got to applaud that even when he's not scoring, he's playing quite well sometimes. And he still finished on 14 goals, which is a very respectable tally.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, thanks very much for coming on, Ollie, and sharing your end-of-season thoughts with us. I'm sure we'll have you on again, maybe over the summer. We've got the Euros, obviously. We have spoke about some of our plans. We're going to do some stuff with, like, maybe, I guess, some scouting sort of videos where we look at potential sign-ins, and I know you like looking at that sort of stuff. So
that's my domain,
maybe we can get you on for a video in that regard. We'll sort something out anyway, but thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
That's all right.
And I'll see you soon.
Remind everyone where they can find you.
On Twitter, where I've got the SCFC Ollie and the Vibe Football blog as well.
Okay.
Where you can hopefully find me and follow me if you come across my Twitter.
Go give him a follow. Go check out his blog. Support him. I think you like your media, don't you, and like journalism and stuff. So go give him some support. Still quite young. Got a career ahead of him, so he needs all the support that he can get. So go check him out. Give him some positive feedback. But yeah, thanks for coming on, and we'll see you again soon.
See you soon.
Hello, thanks for having me on Swans Cast. This is TheReal JackArmy here today to give you my opinions of Swansea City's 2020-2021 season review. So expectations before the season. I think we were very unlucky to lose the playoff final, but very happy to go one step further than the playoffs and to make an appearance in the playoff final, but very disappointed on the outcome, as most Swansea fans would be. review of the season. I think Steve Cooper done a fantastic job with the squad he had. Obviously, we were really unlucky with the squad depth towards the end of the season. Losing the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White really on in the season. Losing the likes of Jordan Morris and Areola due to circumstances. High moment of the season has to be getting to the playoff final, and Mark Geehee at the back, fantastic defending. Obviously, we went on a fantastic run of conceding any goals in games, which was fantastic. That was a really high moment, going quite far, in the FA Cup. But that's a high for Swansea City. A low moment was after that Watford win. We just seemed to crash really and couldn't pick ourselves back up. We just seemed to scrape victories and scrape late winners and really depended on the likes of RU or Kabang or Roberts just to score like a late winner, which never really suited us. We just always seemed to be quite negative and quite reliant on like penalties. And I know Steve Hooper, the job he's done was fantastic. Like, fair enough to him. Like, he don't have much of a choice with the squad depth, but obviously, like, week to week he was like picking like a back four, then going back to a back five. It's like, obviously he's not going to be good for the players because one week you're playing back four, next week playing back five. Obviously it was tactical for tactical reasons, but I just don't understand why he was reverting and changing like week in, week out. Stick to one formation because players like, we're playing this formation this week, etc, etc. Player of the season for me has to be Mark Geehee. If it wasn't for him, I think Swansea would be nowhere near a playoff final. His defending has been world class, and it'd be fantastic to have him back next season, but I can't see it happening myself. Goal of the season has to be Matt Grimes. What a screamer that was in a 5-0 or 5-1 against Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup. What a screamer that was by him. Sign of the season has to be that man, of course, Mark Geehee. What a player. He has got a bright future. Chelsea are very lucky to be having him on their books for a good couple of years. It'd be fantastic if he was to come back at the Liberty for a third year, just like Freddie Woodman. But we can all dream. So this has been the Real JackArmy making a appearance on Swans Cast. Thanks for having me on, guys. Hopefully more videos will come out in the 2021-2022 season. Thanks for having me on, guys. Much appreciated. Hope you are well. And this has been the Real JackArmy on your channel. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Okay, so I'm joined now by Joey. So welcome, Joey, for your debut on the channel.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. Do you want to just give everyone a little bit of a brief sort of introduction to yourself and where they can maybe find you then on Twitter or social media?
Yeah, certainly. So, been a Swansea fan for quite a long time now. Long suffering, as it were. Joey is Swansea is the Twitter handle. Joey Daniel Waldron. If you search either of those, you will find me. Just wanted to come on and have a quick discussion about stuff relating to the club, really.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah. We'll get a good discussion on today. So obviously we're going to focus again on the season review today. But I'm sure we'll have you on in the summer or in the new season to talk about other stuff in the future.
Yeah, certainly.
Let's start off then. So before we kick off with what actually happened this year, what were your expectations before we started? So what did you think going into the year on the back of last summer, the playoff defeat to Brentford in the semi-final last year?
It was difficult because I looked at the team and I thought, we've invested obviously with Jamal Lowe, but I did look at it and I thought, this is a weaker side than the previous two seasons in the Championship. Yeah. So my expectation at the start of the season was, if we can get playoffs, great. Obviously, as it developed and as we sort of got into the season, those expectations changed. And I think everyone's expectations changed at the club and everyone who was involved in the club, the fans, it changed. and we can all admit that. But yeah, at the start of the season, not high, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I agree. Like I've said a couple of times probably at this point, but I was expecting maybe like we got to the playoffs, kind of like robbed out space in the playoffs a little bit last season, but maybe if we could get there and actually like hold the space for a while this season, that would have been what I was hoping that we would be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the players we didn't really know. It was a couple of loans that could or couldn't, may or may not work. So yeah, it was definitely interesting. But after we've seen what happened then, so sum up your season so far. So a couple of things maybe. Any standout moments for you? Areas that maybe cost us in the long run, looking back, and compare that then to your expectations. Did it match what you were expecting?
Certainly. So, you know, as far as how the season developed, as I said, you know, going in probably not that high expectations. I think by around November, December, we were all thinking we're going to go up, we're going to be top 2 camp, you know. Yeah. And it was like that for a long time. And I still thought towards the end of the season we might pip Watford to that second place. I genuinely did. You know, I just had this feeling. When it didn't come off, fine, you know, great. Let's go in the playoffs and test our luck. I think watching those playoffs, I always said that if we got Bournemouth in the final, we'd go up. I always thought if we got Brentford, we'd lose. Yeah. And that was borne out in the end, you know. The thing with Brentford is that we've played them so much over the past 2 years and never looked confident against them, ever. They're one of those bogey sides, really, you know, like when we played Everton in the Premier League, we never looked confident against Everton. We got a couple of good results, but we never looked good against them, and we never looked like we believed that we could beat them, right? And that's the same with this Thomas Frank Brentford side.
Yeah, no, I know.
You know, it's frustrating, but I always said that if that happened, then that's what would happen. Obviously, it doesn't make it any less devastating, but yeah, it was hard to take. But in the end, you've got to say fair play, and they can go up. You know, hopefully we won't have to play them for a while, but yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, yeah. What hopefully happens is we'll go up next season and they'll come down. So like we'll miss them. But no, I'm joking. Good luck to them. To be fair, in the long run, they deserve it, and they've worked for a couple of years now building for it. As much as Thomas Frank's come in and rattled a few feathers.
Yeah.
Aside from him, aside from him, they probably like deserve it. Like they've definitely run the right way and made money and all the rest of it. It's kind of a little bit like what, you know, when we went up 10 years ago, except with money being a lot higher these days.
Yeah, I think they're probably the model now.
Yeah,
that we're looking at. Yeah. You know, we should let's sell these players, make money, and then reinvest, and then go up.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that was really stressful for me about the end of the season, was knowing that if we didn't go up, Ayu's gone.
Yeah.
That's going well, and I am absolutely devastated because I love Andre. I think he's a brilliant player. He's a brilliant ambassador for this club. The passion he showed. There's not many players that aren't from Swansea that show that amount of passion for this club.
Especially when you get relegated as well.
Yeah, exactly. And people will say, oh, he left to go to Fenerbahce. You know, that wasn't really his choice.
No, and Potter didn't want him at the end of the day. He was happy to just get rid of him. You know,
exactly.
Cooper came in, and all of a sudden, like, is there a way we can keep him? Can we do something? And brought him back in with the expectation still that he would go. Realised how well he fitted in, and really pushed to keep him. So yeah.
And he's been one of those players over the past 2 years that literally has been incredible for us. You know, and people will say, is he a club legend? People will say he's not. I personally think he is. You know, 3 out of the 4 seasons he played here, he was top scorer. The guy's just a genius, and I'm going to really miss him. But it almost leaves a hole now for some new foreign player with passion, hopefully, to come in. You know,
I think maybe a youngster, someone you've got from nowhere really. No one knows anything about them, and they can come and just raw talent and be successful. But we'll see what happens in that regard. I'm sure they've got some plans. In the line. But you're right. Like, it's a difficult question. Like with saying, is he a legend or not? Because that like legend can be thrown around easily, can't it? So I think that's why people are careful to label players in that category these days. But I'm not saying he is or isn't from my point of view. I'm not really sure because it's like maybe because it's so fresh. I think sometimes you can look back and make an easier decision. But what I will say, if he could easily be regarded as a legend, I completely understand everyone that says he is. And if you're saying he's not a legend, I would say, you know, if you've got a category of legend players, he's just like that slight bit lower. Do you get me?
Yeah.
Like not necessarily on the same pedestal as Leon Britton or Lee Trundle, but the next like group under that, I would say that. That's what I would put him in. Same as maybe Wilfred Boney or someone like that. I wouldn't say he's necessarily a legend, but
similar.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So I think I'm quite in agreement with you with a lot of what you said, to be honest. Quite realistic, and there was a time in the season where it could have been more. It did feel like it was going to be more, especially the first half was so good. We did start to have a few issues in the second half, especially after the Norwich game. But I think maybe it was coming because we probably were overachieving for like that first 60% of the season or whatever it was. The transfers didn't really work in January that we needed to work to fix some of the problems that were going to come, and they came at the end of the day. Morris especially, I think we needed more firepower, and we didn't have it when we needed it because of his injury. Routledge and Cullen at the same time. I also think, I don't know what you think about this, but he brought in Morris, winger/striker, Ariola, winger/striker, I know right back as well. And Whittaker, of course. I think he was planning to go to the four at the back sooner. He was trying to bed Morris in as quick as he could. You could tell he was bringing him on every game. And at that time, he wasn't really making subs. But Morris was coming on every game. I think he was thinking about it sooner. But then Morris gets injured. Routledge and Cullen are injured. And he feels like he's got no choice then. He can't really do it. So, who knows? And it's all ifs and buts.
I agree, I agree with you on that. And I think as much as we talk about the Andre Ayew departure now hurting, the Jordan Morris injury really hurt at the time because it was just one of those that I remember him coming on against Norwich, was it? When he should have won that penalty?
Yeah, that should have been the penalty, 100%.
Yeah, and I remember him coming on in that game, and I just looked at him and thought, this is some player, like, this is a coup for us.
But that speed is something that we missed. I know Jamalo's quick, but he doesn't use the speed in the same way as, like, Morris. You could tell, when if he came on at the end of the game against tired legs, like, he was going to just run at them and get past.
Yeah, someone who gets in behind and then creates that opportunity, really, you know?
Well, ironically, he was in behind when he snapped his leg, wasn't he? It was a ball in behind against Huddersfield.
True.
And I don't know whether it's the way he runs or something, but clearly it just didn't go well on that day.
It was a really weird step onto the ball, and it was like, oh, okay, that's strange.
It's very harsh.
It's really harsh on him, and like, you know, hopefully the stars align, and potentially, you know, if he's fit in January, there's another loan move for him.
Yeah. But the thing is, he wouldn't have played football for a year, so I feel like we wouldn't go in at that point. Yeah. But we will. I would love it for it to happen, just out of like, you know, we wanted to give you a chance. You got injured playing for us. I'd love to give you another chance, but I think sometimes the money men don't think like that way, do they? So yeah. But it did, from what I was reading the other day, seem that his injury was worse than first expected. They were hoping that he would have been playing football by the end of this calendar year, but it looks like he's not going to kick a ball this year now. So,
wow,
yeah,
it's difficult for him, isn't it? You know, as a young man who this was his first foray really outside of the US. You know, he was keen for it, and he looked, again, another one of those players who was going to bring a different type of passion, but still
a passion for like showing himself, proving himself as an American coming over to the different system. Because 100%, it's still seen as a bit of a cliche that there's not many of them that do it. The football over there is not as good, and he's out to prove that wrong. And he had a different path as well through like college football over there. Quite a unique path, and I think he's quite respected over there for his youth path up to like mainstream and international football. So second ACL in your other leg, like how bad can your luck get in your career? Like it's
horrible.
Hopefully that's it for him, and he'll have a good couple of years to end now. Like he's 26, so he's still got a couple of years ahead of him.
Yeah, he's still got probably 10 years ahead of him if he can stay fit, you know. But yeah, you do feel for him because it was just one of those things. It's a freak moment, you know.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of those throughout the season. I felt like freak moments where people just got injured. You know, like Cullen was the same.
Yeah.
Routley came in the semi-finals.
Well, and in the same game as Cullen, wasn't he? He got injured.
Yeah, and that game as well. Yeah, exactly.
I think like the whole, maybe not for all of the injuries, but for some of them, the amount of games condensed into a smaller time frame because of COVID, I think has been stuff already saying that like muscle injuries were increased and just the more demand. I know there's an argument that I hate seeing actually, but that people say like, oh, well, they paid all this money, they should be able to deal with it. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter how much you paid. Your body is your body.
Yeah.
Like
exactly,
you can't play more than what you can play. It doesn't matter how much money you're on. Like
both bones don't go. Oh well, I got 10 grand this week, so I better. It's a bit thick.
Yeah, well, that's one we can probably talk about in the summer, maybe all in more detail. But let's move on a second. So, player of the season then. So, 2 categories here. So, depending on what you say for your player of the season.
Yeah.
If, you know, the age bracket really. Player of the season and young player of the season. So, obviously, if your player of the season falls into the young player category, then, yeah, there's only one, isn't there? But otherwise, player of the season and young player.
So, player of the season for me is Connor Roberts. You know, and people will say, well, you know, Andre Ayew was head and shoulders above the rest when it comes to scoring and stuff.
Yeah.
But Connor exemplified everything that we wanted. It was passion, pace. It was, you know, I'm going to give my all for this team. And actually, when you look at like some of the biggest moments of the season, he was there.
Yeah, some big goals he scored.
Yeah, the goals against Forest, the goal against Stoke that he scored. I mean, he played amazingly in that game against Stoke.
Yeah.
what he'd had for breakfast that morning, but bloody hell.
A very good season from Roberts. And he's 25, so you can have a young player as well.
Okay, good. So again, young player for me is between 2, and probably the second one is a bit of a surprise. So Ben Capango was just unbelievable in the centre of defence. Every time he played, I really felt assured. So, you know, you can sometimes look at a defender and go, oh my God, he's playing, this is... but whenever Ben Capango played, I was like, yeah, he looks good, he looks solid. You know, he chipped in with a couple of goals as well, so that's important for a defender. The second one, and people will question this, but is Liam Cullen. Because I feel like for 2 years now he's been in this first team squad, and his opportunities have been limited. But every time he plays, there's something about him, and he shows something different.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
You know, and if he's not a big player next season, I will be very, very, very surprised.
It depends on our signings, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean,
true.
He's either, at the moment, you'd say he's first choice striker, especially with Ayew going now. But you don't know what's going to happen in the summer. And I would hate to see him slipping down because I feel like we should he should be first or second choice no matter who we sign, I think. I understand if we go out and sign a proven goal scorer so that he's not maybe the one that starts all the time. But I want him to have more action off the bench more regularly if that is the case. And if this whoever we sign isn't performing, he can come on. Or if we're still playing 5 at the back with the 2 forwards, he's one of them. Like rather than maybe Lowe, who's not necessarily a forward. But then there's a question then where do you fit him in? So that's a bigger debate. But I agree, Capango, he's been solid. We've talked about his performances after some games in our videos. I'm sure you might have viewed at some point. But the only, I think constructive criticism. He is young, isn't he? So he's going to make mistakes. But the only thing I think for him, majorly, is sometimes he's too quick to hoof the ball away. But at the same time, that's not necessarily a negative because you could argue some of the other players don't do it enough, and then we get caught out. So he's kind of like, okay, I don't want to make a mistake that leads to a goal. I'm just going to get rid of it. Which I think when we're in a spell of not playing well, people highlight that and say like, oh, we need to keep the ball to get back in the game. Yeah. But from his point of view, he's like, I just don't want to make a mistake. I want to make sure we aren't conceding. And he's young, so he's going to learn from that. He's gonna get better on the ball, isn't he? Like that's. So I agree. He's had a very good year, and at the playoff semi-finals especially, he was immense. I would argue he could have been man of the match in both, even though Geehy got it. I think, especially the first game, I think I would give it to Capango over Geehy.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say about the hoofball thing is that, like, actually he's almost a hybrid defender between Gay and Bennett, because Bennett hoofs it and nobody criticises Ryan, you know. But yeah, I mean, the one thing I want Ben to do and work on over this summer and over the next season is to actually be a bit more comfortable with the ball.
Yeah,
because some looks a little bit like he's kicking the ball weird, you know. And it's but if he can work on that, then I think he's going to be one hell of a player for the future.
I think that's perhaps where the whole hoofball thing comes from, maybe because he looks a bit uncomfortable, and then sometimes he ends up kicking it long. That's probably why people jump on him a bit more than maybe Bennett. But like I said, I'm not jumping on him when we've mentioned in the past. That's like us being constructive, really, more than anything. But 100% good season. Yeah. And Cullen, I agree. Like, I would love to see him get more chances. For me, when he came on, like the last couple of games when he was starting as striker and we went to the back, he just allows Ayew and Lowe to play so much better than when they're up to top together.
Yeah,
as much as like Cullen might not have a game where he is the standout, he's done something that you're like, oh yeah, Liam Cullen, that was class. But it's kind of like background work that you don't necessarily see or recognise as being like, he's not going to get the headlines for it. But him being in the middle, making the runs, occupying the centre backs, it's allowing Ayew to have space to cut in and get a goal from his, finessing from his left, like stuff like
that.
It's
clever striker play, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think he's got enough credit for that, but we definitely missed that in the final, I think.
I felt for him in that game. I really felt for him because obviously, like, Connor, it felt like Connor had to start that game, right? Because of the passion and the pride and all that. But when Cullen came on, because I think, did he come on after Jay was sent off?
It was like 3 minutes before.
So, yeah, like, he's not going to be able to change the game then, do you know what I mean? We're down to 10 men. And I've really felt for him. I wanted him to...
It's the wrong sort of game anyway, when we're 2-0 down. And
exactly.
They're happy to just sit back and win the game because that's all they needed to do. We needed him there when it was 0-0, and they were pushing so that when we countered, he can make these runs.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's done. That's we spoke about that in our last video about errors that Steve Cooper maybe made, but look, I'm sure they'll all learn from that, especially if Cooper's here next year. But I think he just allows the other two to play so much better, and I thought that's why he was going to just stick to the 4. But we'll see going into next season if that happens, I guess. Because Ayew, he takes 2 people. So if you're taking 2 centre backs, it's easier to mark. If you're taking someone on the right or whatever you are, the right or the left, and a centre back's got to come over as well. Yeah. But then you've got Cullen making a run the other way. There's a gap, and I think there was that one goal against. I can't remember, Sheffield Wednesday maybe, where Ayew came on as a sub, did that back heel to Felton, who was running through the middle.
That was Reading.
Yeah. But that's literally exactly, that's the space that's created from all of that combining. So
exactly, agreed.
Okay. Goal of the season then. I know it's a bit on the spot here, but...
I mean, it's hard not to look past the Jamal one against Cardiff, the second one.
I think that seems to be the general consensus so far of what I've heard.
I mean, it's just such a good goal. But also, I do really like Connor's equaliser against Stoke, the volley.
Yeah.
I just thought that was so Connor Roberts, such a player that you wouldn't expect to be in there, and then all of a sudden pops up with a messy volley, and you're like, what? Yeah. Where did that come from?
That was very good. I tend to agree with you on the Jamal Lowe one though, because I think how often do we see, especially as Swans, I don't know whether it's down to our style of play, but how often do we see a player running through nearly from the halfway line? I know Ayew got tackled and he ran onto the ball. But just dribbling it through a couple of players and then just taking a shot on and it going in. We just don't really see goals like that.
No, and we don't. Yeah, you're right, because that's not the style of play that we play. But it was just so beautiful to watch all of these Cardiff players falling over.
Yeah.
And Jamal just standing and going, see you later.
It couldn't have been against a better team. That goal.
Exactly.
I think Jamal, whatever he does the rest of his Swansea career, he's always going to be up there for Swans fans because of that game.
There'd always be a beer for him in Swansea, wouldn't there?
Yeah, 100%. He's definitely he can retire now.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, last one then. So signing of the season. And it can be a loan signing or a transfer signing.
This one's quite hard, actually, because you look at the signings we made at the start of the season. Freddie and Mark aside, a lot of them have contributed, but not like being superstars, right? Yeah. Second half of the season, you could say the same. I really, really like the signing of Morgan Whittaker. I think he looks an excellent player, but probably not for the first team yet. If we're going to go signing the season, it's between Mark or Freddie, because both of those players, again, Freddie knows exactly what it means to the fans, much like Andre does. You know, he's got that passion. He always shows that he's so passionate about Swansea, and like he did all those videos on Instagram learning Welsh, which like imagine. Like nobody does that.
He might not even be here next year, so why would he even need to put that time?
I know nobody does that, and I was just like,
credit to him.
Yeah, and we've just got a dog recently, and when we were picking names, it had to be a Disney name for my missus. But I was also like, can we have Woody, because it's like Freddie Woodman, Woody, right?
Oh,
so yeah, I probably would say Woodman actually. I just think he's just everything about him. I just love him.
Yeah, I'm glad you've said Woodman. I feel like he's had a lot of unfair criticism this season.
He does get a lot of stick. Yeah,
we've given him again when we like to like highlight mistakes. It's a bit of constructive criticism. We always look at what they've done wrong and then look at the context of it. Like we try to anyway. So when there was a couple of games, his distribution was off a little bit. I was quite vocal to say like because Twitter was going mad at this point, saying he's not good enough and all this. And I was just like, look. Yes, he's made some errors. He's made a mistake or two. I think like the Palmer scoring against us for Bristol when he done him. Yeah, like I was like the reason. The reason he's here playing for us in the first place in the Championship, not the Premier League, the Championship, is because he's from a Premier League club. He's young. He's coming through. He needs some game time to develop, to make mistakes and learn from them. That's literally why he's here. If he was the finished article, he wouldn't be here. That's he wouldn't be here. He'd be playing for Newcastle's first team. So
I agree.
You gotta like give him a bit of leeway when he does these things. Yeah, you can say that he done this wrong. He needs to do better. That's fine. You can say that, but at the same time, you've got to acknowledge that that's what he's here to do as well. So all of the loan players that have come from youth teams, they're here to learn football, first team football. Championship's quite a cauldron of fire a little bit. Like it's a good place if you can hack it like Geehee and Woodman have. I think like you've got a good career ahead of you. And I think he's done fun. You don't win Golden Glove if you're a bad keeper. I don't care. You can say what you want for the defence. The defence didn't even finish as the best defence in the league, and he still won Golden Glove. So
exactly. Yeah. And I mean, you can temper the bad games by the two games at Oakwell. So the one in the regular season, where he makes that save from Mowat, I think it was, from the long range drive.
Yeah.
And the semi-final where he makes that unbelievable double save at the start of the second half, which probably wins us the tie.
Yeah, well, that was a good one though, because that just showed this determination. I think we mentioned it in our video where the first save he could have done better with, because he kind of the way that he saves it palms it into trouble, which I think he knows himself at that moment. Oh crap! I should have done better with that. I've left ourselves in a bit of trouble, but he makes sure he gets there for the second one. So he immediately makes up for it, and that's just that's literally what you're saying. That's his drive, his commitment, his determination, all there in that double save, because he does make an error and he atones for it like a second later, and it's a massive, like you said, could have won us the tie really, and not just even the first leg. I think the tie in general. So anyway, anything else that you want to talk about then in regards to this season or going forward before we wrap up?
I mean, obviously what every Swans fan is going to want this summer is investment, and I think it's really needed now. I know that we haven't got the parachute payments and all that, but there's a reason why they've released Ayew, there's a reason why they've released Declan John and all these players, because they want to save wages, right?
Yeah.
That money now needs to be reinvested. Like we've been talking about, Cullen, okay. I would be happy for him to be first choice, but realistically, we need somebody who's more prolific and can score those goals. That needs to happen at this point, because if it doesn't, then we could go the way of, say, a Derby who really struggled this season, and nobody that.
I think I don't know. Well, I don't want to touch. I don't want to say anything that puts me in the spotlight here. But I think if we didn't maybe consolidate our position at the top, I would feel we'd fall mid-table rather than bottom. But it can easily happen in Championship because it's all about confidence. Just look at Forest. They went from losing out on the playoffs on the last day. They must have just knocked their mental strength because they just fell off a cliff then, and until they had a new manager that kind of saved them. But
you see it. You do see it in the Championship, like you said. It's one of those leagues.
Yeah, I feel like our squad has got the mental strength to bounce back from a playoff final with determination to.
I do as well.
Do better. I think they used last season's semi-defeat to push them on this year. So when you got that step closer again, you've got to look at it at the end of the day. Well, we did actually make progress because they won the semi-final this time. They learned from the semi-final and they got through it this time. Because we won both legs both times. Just the second leg this time, we'd done the job. Now we know what to expect in a final, so we need to learn from it for next year. Hopefully it won't come to that and we can push on further. But if it does, then we've got that experience. But like you said, we do need investment. I think in regards to AU, I would just write him off. I think the parachute money covers him. That's the only reason he stayed at all was because of parachute money. So I've seen a lot of people saying on Twitter, like, does that mean now he's gone, we'll have money to reinvest? I would straight up say no. Whatever money AU cost us is not going back into the club. That money is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. But the others, you're right, like they weren't necessarily good enough or they didn't fit into Steve Cooper's plans. I'm going to go and put my neck on the line here and say Barry McKay, maybe, if there was a bit more like, if someone could have tapped his mental, whatever he's thinking, he had something to give, but he clearly wasn't necessarily fully focused on what he needed to be focused on. I just think it stands out to me that season under Potter. I'm pretty sure, I've got the stats in front of me now, but I've looked into it before. I'm sure he had more goal contribution than Bursa and Selena, who got praised for that season. McKay was like a bit of a meme. However, I'm sure he had more assists and less game time. But I mean, they've gone now, so his wages released, so you're right.
Yeah. Barry McKay's a frustrating player. So I remember before COVID, so the season before this one, we were playing Fulham at the Liberty and we were 2-1 down in the second half. Barry McKay came on and he was running down the wing. Somebody sprayed this ball out to him. He was in a perfect position to cross it and then crossed it into the crowd. And you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And that was him. That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, he's too inconsistent. That's what I mean. If someone could get in there and sort him out, he's definitely got quality. But he just couldn't do it all the time, and that's what was frustrating.
Yeah,
but he used to pop up with assists quite often, which is that's why it's annoying because. But it is what it is. He's gone now. So hopefully we do. All that stuff happened last year where they got some more people on board. Apparently there was more money in the consortium or something. I'm not really sure the details of it, but let's see if we see any of that. The club technically made a profit last year, so I would say we will. I do expect a big name to go still. Yeah, that's probably where most of the funds will come from. But we need to see if, say, it's Grimes or Connor Roberts or whoever it is, Cabango, whatever they sell for, all of that money I would like to see go back in. So whether you say one goes for 10, 15 million, 2 or 3 players brought in with that money is what I would like to see. And then loans to complement.
That needs to happen. But I think out of the players that potentially could leave, the one I would be most hurt by is Connor Roberts.
Yeah,
I know he'd get the most money, but he's the one I really don't want to leave.
But that's because he's from our academy and he's a local lad, and that's literally why. His passion, how good would it be for a local boy to take you back to the Prem? That's a story for the papers, isn't it? That's like one of them dream stories. But sometimes,
isn't it?
I think even if he stays this year, he's going to go at some point, because if we don't go up, and your career's short. He's 25. I didn't realise he was that old, actually. But especially if he has a good Euros now. The only good thing about that is he might add value. But
he's too good not to be playing at that level. Yeah, and that's the problem. Yeah,
and I think we can't be sometimes when a player leaves and people are like, he didn't have any loyalty. It's like, well, he's got a short career and he needs to test himself. Yeah.
If he goes, I wish him all the best.
Same.
I absolutely love him. I think he's been the one player that I've looked at and gone, wow, what a guy, and everyone loves him. Everyone loves him. All the players love him. All the fans love him. So yeah, if he goes, and he goes with my best wishes, but I just hope it doesn't happen.
Yeah, same. Well, we'll see. We'll see what the summer brings. Like I said before, we've got more stuff going on in the summer. I won't talk about it now, but keep an eye out for that. Thanks for coming on again, Joey.
Thanks, mate.
And I'm sure we'll see you again soon. If you want to remind everyone where they can find you, like on Twitter or whatever.
Yep, so Joey Daniel Waldron or Joey is Swansea is the handle. And yeah, just follow me on there.
Cool, cheers, and I shall see you next time, and we'll move on to whoever's next in this video. So cheers for coming on. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Okay, there we have it. There's everyone's contributions to their season review and what they thought of Swansea City's season in the 2020-21 Championship season. Quite a weird year with COVID and everything. No fans in the stadium until we got rewarded if you were lucky enough to go to the playoff final and actually experience the game. And that's a big game to experience in a year where we didn't experience any. So it could have been far worse. But yeah, let us know what you think about your season review and what you think about what everyone had to say in this video in the comments. And once again, I just want to thank everybody for their support. I hope you enjoyed this video if you're still here at this point. And if you are still here at this point, fair play, because this has been very, very long. Really, really appreciate that support. And if you are still here, then please just hit that subscribe button. Really helps us out a lot. And if you like the video as well, it just allows more people to see what we're doing. And hopefully we can just expand and do more stuff like this and other stuff in the future. So a couple of things we've got coming up in the summer. We're going to try and get some stuff out for the Euros. We've also not quite finished with our end of season stuff. So we're going to do a sort of player awards video, if that makes sense. So we'll discuss our player of the seasons. That's the Swans cast team, because I kind of left that out of our section of this video. So we'll discuss our player of the season, maybe goal of the season, sign-ins of the season. We'll have some jokey ones in there as well, I think. And also maybe team of the season. And maybe we'll look at some of the wider championship team of the season, but we'll see what happens with that. Otherwise, we've got a transfer series going to come up. So we're going to have a look at maybe players we think we could look at signing to fill gaps that we need to fill, to challenge again next year and to progress again next year. So check that out. That'll be later in the summer. And there'll be obviously some podcasts as well, just talking about wider football topics. I'm sure we'll have plenty of guests on along the way. If you are interested at all ever coming on, just let us know. Drop us a message on Twitter or comment on the video and we'll reach out to you. We always like to hear other people's opinions. And if you don't want to come on, just keep commenting away and let us know how we feel that way. But again, once again, thanks for your support. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify, whatever it is, really appreciate it. Onwards and upwards now to the next season, and we shall catch you there and, well, in summer. But thanks again, and it's bye for now. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, if you enjoyed the video, to click the like button to help us grow. To keep up to date with all of our new uploads, hit the subscribe button and push the bell to ensure you are notified of all of our new videos. As always, engage in the comments and let us know your opinions on what we discussed today. And if you want to support us directly, check out our new merch where you can find some awesome Swansea related t-shirts.